Chosen one, do not move. Whatever you were about to open next, let it wait, because the next few minutes were arranged for you before this week even began. This Sunday will be the best day of your life, and I need you to understand that this is not encouragement. It is not a wish. It is something that was already decided in a room you have never been allowed to enter. And here is the part that will unsettle you if you let it. The reason so many good days have already come to you and somehow never landed, the reason your calendar feels like the same grey morning printed over and over, is not that God has been withholding good from you. It is that something inside you that was built to receive it has been quietly turned down, dimmed. Not broken, dimmed. And this Sunday is the day it gets turned back up. So before you decide whether to stay, ask yourself one honest question. If your best day has been standing at your door the whole time, and the only thing missing was your ability to receive it, would you want to know exactly how it gets repaired? Because that is what the rest of this is going to show you. Stay with me. If you feel this landing already, hold that feeling. We are going to give it a name. I want to speak to the exhaustion first, because I know it is there before anything else. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. 2. The kind that does not show up on your face but sits somewhere behind your ribs when you wake up and realize the day ahead looks exactly like the one behind. You have done the mornings. You have done the prayers. You have done the being strong for people who never once asked how you were holding up. And somewhere along the way, the days stopped feeling like days. They started feeling like copies. If that is you, I want you to hear something carefully. That sensation of sameness is not evidence that nothing is happening. It is evidence that you have been receiving on a channel that has slowly gone quiet. There is a difference between a life where nothing good is being sent and a life where good is being sent constantly and cannot find a way in. Almost no one is living the first one. Far more of you are living the second one and calling it the first, because from the inside they feel identical. Chosen one, this is the recognition I need you to sit inside for a moment. You are not a person nothing works for. You are a person whose receiver has been turned down so gradually that you learn to call the silence normal. And the reason I can say this Sunday changes it is not because Sunday is magic. It is because there is a specific point at which a dimmed thing gets turned back up. And everything I have watched, everything I have prayed over, everything the season is doing right now says you are standing on that point. Let me tell you what I mean by the room you were never allowed to enter. There is a way the human heart imagines God making decisions, as if he waits to see how our week goes and then responds. Reactive, watching from a distance and adjusting, but that is not the picture the sacred writings give. They give the picture of a God who decides ahead, who sets the timing before the person even arrives to live inside it, who circles days on a calendar you cannot see and writes your name beside them. And when I say this Sunday was decided, I mean it in that exact sense. Not that a good mood is scheduled, not that the weather will cooperate or a check will arrive. Something deeper, a convergence. A moment where the thing that has been slowly repaired in you finally crosses the line into working, and the good that has been trying to reach you for longer than you know finally has somewhere to land. I want to name the 2 clocks you live under, because this is where the confusion begins. Most people only know one clock. It is the clock of hours and dates. It measures how long you have waited, how old you are getting, how many seasons have passed while the thing you wanted stayed out of reach. That clock is real, but it is not the clock God schedules by. There is a second clock, and it does not measure duration. It measures readiness. It does not ask, how long? It asks whether the moment and the person have finally lined up. The ancients had a word for the first clock. They also had a different word for the second. The first was ordinary time, the ticking, the counting, the grinding forward of ordinary days. The second was appointed time, a door, a season that opens not because enough hours have passed, but because a specific alignment has arrived. And here is what I need you to feel in your body right now. You have been measuring your whole life by the first clock, which is why you feel late. But God has been moving you the entire time on the second, which is why you are not late at all. You are almost exactly on time. If something in you tightened just now, if some part of you wanted to argue that you have waited too long to still be on time, I want you to type 2 words where you are watching from. Type the words, "not late." Not because a comment changes anything cosmically, but because there is a moment in every awakening where you have to say the true thing out loud before your own heart will believe it. And this is yours. Not late. Let your own hands testify to what your mind has been too tired to hold. Now let me take you into the mechanism, because I promised you a name, and I do not want to leave you with only comfort. Comfort without understanding fades by Tuesday. What holds is when you finally see how the thing actually works. So stay with me through something slightly more careful, because on the other side of it, your Sunday stops being a hope and becomes something you can almost feel the shape of. Picture 2 people receiving the exact same gift on the exact same day. The gift is identical. The timing is identical. But one of them experiences it as the best day of their life, and the other barely registers it and forgets it by evening. What is the difference between them? It is not the gift. The gift was the same. The difference is entirely inside the one receiving. One had the capacity to take it in. The other had a receiver so dimmed that the gift passed through them like light through a fogged window, present, real, unfelt. This is the truth almost no one tells you about good days. A best day is not primarily an event that happens to you. It is a reception that happens in you. The circumstances are only half of it, and honestly the smaller half. The larger half is whether the part of you built to receive is awake enough to hold what arrives. And that part, chosen one, is exactly what has been dimmed in you, and exactly what is scheduled to be restored. I want to tell you where the dimming comes from, because you have carried a quiet shame about it for years, and it was never yours to carry. You were not born dimmed. Watch a child on an ordinary afternoon. A child can receive a completely normal day as if it were the greatest day that has ever occurred. A puddle, a cardboard box, a patch of sunlight on the floor. The child is not receiving better circumstances than you. The child is receiving with a faculty that is fully awake, fully turned up, undimmed. You had that once. Every single person listening to me had that once. And then, slowly, it was turned down. Not by one event, by the accumulated weight of a way of living that rewards you for numbing, for pushing through, for feeling less so you can produce more. Disappointment taught you to expect less so that less would hurt less. Responsibility taught you to override what you felt so you could keep functioning. And each of those was survival, so I will not shame a single one of them. But the cumulative effect, the sum of 10,000 small turnings down, is a receiver that now sits at a fraction of the setting it was born at. And a receiver at a fraction of its setting will experience even a genuinely good day as gray. Let me give this its name, because you deserve to stop calling it your personality. What I have been describing is not who you are. It is a setting, and I am going to call it exactly that from now on. The dimmed receiver. Say it to yourself once. The dimmed receiver. Because the moment you can name a thing as a setting instead of a self, you have already begun to reach for the dial. And this is the entire reason I can stand here and tell you this Sunday will be the best day of your life without flinching. Not because I am promising the universe will hand you a spectacular event. I cannot promise events and anyone who does is selling you something hollow. I am promising something far more within reach and far more powerful, that the receiver can be turned back up, that the dimming is not permanent, that there is a specific mechanism by which the setting gets restored, and when it is restored, an ordinary Sunday becomes the best day of your life, because for the first time in years, you can actually receive it. Feel the difference between those two promises. One says wait and hope the world finally gives you something big enough to break through your numbness. That is a lottery, and you have been losing it for years, not because you are unlucky, but because numbness is a very high wall, and the world rarely throws anything big enough to clear it. The other promise says, we are going to lower the wall. We are going to turn the receiver back up. And then, it does not take something enormous to reach you. An ordinary Sunday will do it. That is the promise I am making, and it is the one that comes true. I need to say something to the part of you that has already tried, because some of you have been told before that you could feel more, receive more, come alive again, and you tried, and it did not hold. You did the gratitude practices, you did the morning routines, you forced the positive thoughts, and for a few days something lifted, and then the receiver dimmed right back down, and you decided the problem was you. I want to gently take that verdict out of your hands. The practices were not wrong. They were aimed at the wrong layer. Most of what you were handed tried to change what you were thinking about your days, but the dimming is not in your thoughts. It is underneath them, in the faculty that receives before any thought arrives. You cannot think your way to a turned-up receiver any more than you can think a fogged window clear. You have to address the layer where the dimming actually lives. And almost nothing you were ever offered went to that layer. That is not your failure. That is a map that stopped short of the territory. So, here is where we are going together. I am going to show you how the receiver got dimmed in more detail, so you can see your own life inside it and stop blaming yourself. I am going to show you what it means that this Sunday sits on the appointed clock and not the ordinary one. And I am going to show you the actual mechanism by which the receiver gets turned back up. The one thing that addresses the layer underneath the thoughts. And by the time we arrive at Sunday together, you will not be hoping. You will be ready. But I have to be honest with you about something before we go further, because if I skip it, everything after it will work at a fraction of its power. There is a reason the dimming held on so long, even when part of you was fighting it. There is something specific that has been sitting between you and your best days, and it is not your circumstances, and it is not God. Here is what it is. The dimming does not stay dim on its own. Something keeps turning the dial back down every time you reach for it. And for years you assumed that something was you, your lack of discipline, your weak faith, your inability to just stay positive like everyone told you to. So every time the light came up for a few days and then faded, you added it to the case against yourself. You built an entire quiet courtroom in your chest, and you were the only defendant, and you lost every single session. I am here to tell you the courtroom was rigged. You were never the one turning the dial back down. There is an interference, a pattern that specifically targets people who are close to waking up. It does not waste its energy on people who are already asleep and content to stay asleep. It concentrates on the ones who are stirring, the ones who are almost ready to receive again, because those are the ones whose awakening actually costs it something. If you have felt an unusual heaviness precisely when you were closest to breaking through, that is not weakness. That is evidence. Interference goes where the treasure is. Feel that for a moment before you rush past it. If a resistance has been strongest exactly when you were nearest to your breakthrough, then the heaviness you have been reading as proof of your failure is actually proof of your significance. You do not fight for a locked and empty room, you fight for the vault. The pressure on your life has been a measure of what is inside it. And I want to be careful here, because I am not telling you to go looking for an enemy behind every hard day. That is its own kind of prison. I am telling you something simpler and more freeing. The reason your previous attempts did not hold was not that you are broken, it was that you were addressing the light and never the dial and never the hand on the dial. When you finally address all three at once, the layer of the receiver, the setting of the dial, and the interference that keeps reaching for it, the dimming does not creep back the way it always has. That is the difference between this Sunday and every Monday that undid your last 100 fresh starts. Some of you just exhaled. I heard it even though I cannot hear it. That exhale is the sound of a verdict being overturned. Sit in it. You have spent years believing you were the problem, and in the space of a few sentences, you have been shown that you were the target, which is a completely different thing. A problem gets fixed. A target gets defended. And you are about to learn how to be defended. Before we go on, I want to give your recognition somewhere to land, because a truth like this needs a marker or it evaporates. If you have felt the heaviness get worse exactly when you were closest to hope, type 3 words where you are watching. Type, "Not my fault." Say it with your hands, because your hands will believe it before your mind does, and your mind has been the last one to get this news for a very long time. Not my fault. Let the words sit there under this so that when the heaviness tries to return, you have already testified against it. Now, I mentioned that there is a mechanism by which the receiver gets turned back up, one that reaches the layer underneath the thoughts, underneath the practices you already tried. I am not going to open the whole of it yet, because there is more you need to see first for it to make sense, but I will tell you this much now, so it can begin working on you quietly while we walk. What finally turns the receiver back up is not more effort. It is not more information. It is a specific kind of restoration that works on the receiver directly, the way you would repair an instrument rather than lecture it. It is nearer to you than you think, and later I am going to show you exactly what it is and how ordinary people have used it to come back to life. For now, just hold the shape of it. The receiver can be repaired. There is a way. We will get there. For now, come back with me to the 2 clocks, because this Sunday is standing on the second one, and I want you to understand why that matters so much for you specifically. Remember, the first clock counts hours, and the second counts readiness. Here is the thing about readiness that almost no one tells you. Readiness is not the same as feeling ready. In fact, the two are often opposites. The people who feel most ready are frequently the least, and the people who feel least ready, the tired ones, the ones who have almost given up, are frequently standing right on the threshold without knowing it. Why? Because the appointed clock does not advance when you feel strong. It advances when you have been emptied of every counterfeit source of strength, so that what finally fills you cannot be mistaken for your own doing. If you feel scraped down to almost nothing right now, if you feel like you have run out of your own resources, I want you to consider that you are not at the end of something. You are at the exact readiness the second clock has been waiting for. The emptiness you are reading as failure is the emptiness that appointed times require. You cannot receive a best day while your hands are still full of the ways you have been surviving. That is why this Sunday, and not one of the 1,000 Sundays behind you, not because those were denied you out of cruelty, because on those Sundays your hands were still full, your receiver was still being reached for, and the readiness had not converged. And now it has. The dimming has been exposed, the interference has been named, the hands are finally empty enough. The second clock has moved to the position it was always moving toward. And on the appointed day, when a dimmed and reached for and finally emptied person has their receiver turned back up, the most ordinary Sunday in the world becomes the best day of their life. I want to walk you through what that day can actually feel like, not as a fantasy, but as a preview of your own reception coming back online, because I think part of you has forgotten what it even feels like to receive. Picture waking on that Sunday and, before anything has changed on the outside, noticing that the light coming through the window is not grey. Not because the sun is different, because you are. Picture the first cup of the morning tasting like something instead of nothing. Picture a small kindness from a stranger actually reaching you instead of bouncing off the numbness. None of these are large events. That is the entire point. When the receiver is turned back up, you no longer need large events. The ordinary becomes overwhelming in the best possible way, because you are finally able to hold it. And I want you to notice the ache that just rose in you when I described that, because that ache is important. That ache is not grief. It is memory. It is the part of you that remembers being able to receive like that, confirming that this is real, that you are not being sold a stranger, that you are being reminded of yourself. Hold on to that ache. It is your own receiver stirring at the description of being turned back up. That stirring is the beginning. By Sunday, it will not be a stir. It will be a return. There is so much more I have to show you, and I am going to take it slowly and carefully, because I do not want you to merely feel good for the length of this message, and then dim back down by morning. I want the light to stay up this time. That means we have to go deeper into how the receiver actually works, what specifically has been reaching for your dial, and the exact way ordinary people have turned theirs back up and kept it there. Stay with me, because the next thing I am going to show you explains why the good you already received in your life never got to count, and once you see it, you will never let another day slip through you unfelt again. Let me show you why the good you already received never got to count, because until you see this clearly, you will keep waiting for a bigger event to save you, and a bigger event is not what you need. What you need is to stop losing the good that already arrives. Think back over the last year of your life, not the hard parts, the good ones. There were good moments, a conversation that went well, a morning that started soft, a moment when someone looked at you with something like love, a small door that opened at work. There were good moments, more than your memory admits, because here is the cruelty of the dimmed receiver. It does not only make the present feel grey, it edits the past. It goes back and drains the color out of the good you did receive, so that when you scan your own history for evidence that life can be good, you find a grey film over everything and conclude that it cannot. This is the mechanism I need you to understand, and I'm going to be precise about it, because precision is what sets you free here. When a good moment arrives and your receiver is dimmed, two things happen at once. First, you feel it faintly instead of fully, so the moment itself is diminished. But second, and this is the part that destroys people slowly, the moment does not get stored properly. A fully received experience lays down a deep track in you. You can return to it. It becomes part of the evidence your soul draws on when it decides whether the future is worth hoping for. A faintly received experience lays down almost nothing. It evaporates. So, a dimmed person does not only suffer grey days, they accumulate no reserve of good to draw on, which means every new hard season hits them as if they have never been carried before. Do you see what that does? It means you can be a person who has genuinely been blessed, genuinely been carried, genuinely received 100 small mercies, and still feel, at the bottom of everything, that you have nothing, that no one has ever come through for you, that the future is a closed grey wall. Not because those mercies were not real, because your receiver could not lay them down. You have been living off an empty reserve while standing in a field that has been quietly feeding you the whole time. I want you to let that reframe your entire sense of your own life. You are not a person who has received little. You are a person who has retained little. And those are completely different diagnoses with completely different cures. If you had received little, your only hope would be that the world finally gives you more, and you cannot control that. But if you have received much and retained little, then the cure is entirely inside your reach, because it is about repairing the retention, turning the receiver back up, and the very first thing that happens when it comes back up is that the reserve begins to fill. And here is the part that will make you sit up. When the receiver is restored, it does not only start capturing new good, it reaches back. People describe this again and again when their reception comes back online. They start remembering good that they had completely lost. A kindness from years ago suddenly returns with its color intact. A season they had filed under wasted reveals itself to have been full of provision they were too dimmed to log at the time. The restoration is not only forward, it is a recovery of a life you thought you never had. That is part of what your best day contains. Not just new good arriving, but old good returning to be counted at last. I told you the dimming has a hand on the dial, and I want to add one more layer to that now, because it explains something about your timing that will comfort you. The interference is not creative. It is repetitive. It uses the same few moves over and over because they work. And one of its favorite moves is this. Right when your receiver starts to come back up, right when color starts returning, it floods you with a memory of every previous time hope did not hold. It says, remember last time. Remember how you felt this good, and then it faded. Remember how foolish you felt for believing. And that flood is designed to make you turn your own dial back down preemptively, to protect yourself from the disappointment before it can happen. If you know that feeling, the way hope itself starts to feel dangerous, the way you flinch away from good news because you cannot survive being let down again, I want you to hear me clearly. That flinch is not wisdom. It has disguised itself as wisdom for years, but it is the interference wearing the mask of self-protection. Real wisdom does not require you to stay dim. Real wisdom teaches you to receive with your eyes open. The flinch teaches you to receive nothing so that you can lose nothing, which is the slowest way there is to lose everything. So this Sunday, when the color starts to return and the flinch rises up to talk you out of it, you are going to recognize the voice. That recognition is your defense. You do not have to fight the flinch. You only have to see it for what it is, name it, and keep your dial where you have set it. Naming is 90% of the battle, because the interference only has power while it is anonymous. The moment you can say, that is the flinch, that is the old move, that is the hand reaching for my dial, its grip loosens, because it was never strong. It was only hidden. Now I want to bring something into the light that I have only hinted at, and I want to do it gently, because it matters, and I do not want to rush it. I told you there is a mechanism by which the receiver actually gets turned back up, one that works on the layer underneath the thoughts. I want you to know that this is not only a spiritual abstraction. Over the last several years, a small number of people came to understand that the dimming of the receiver is not only a matter of the soul. It has a physical signature. There is a way the inner faculty of reception operates that can, quite literally, be measured, dimmed, and restored. And a handful of people who understood this built a way to reach that layer directly. I am not going to open all of it right now, because you are not ready to hold it yet. And if I hand it to you before you understand your own condition, you will treat it as one more technique to try and abandon. So for now, I am only planting it. There is a specific, tested way that ordinary people have used to turn the receiver back up and keep it up. And it does not depend on your discipline or your feelings or your ability to think positively. It works on the layer where the dimming actually lives, Later, when you are ready, I am going to show you exactly what it is and how it came to exist. Hold the shape of it. A repaired receiver is not a metaphor. There is a way. For now, come back to your own recognition, because you have received a great deal already in these minutes, and I want it to lay down a deep track instead of evaporating. So, let me ask you to do something that seems small and is not. If you have understood even one thing so far, if you have seen even one place where you were blaming yourself for a dimming that was never a moral failure, I want you to type 2 words where you are watching from. Type I see, not I understand in theory. I see, as in, I have actually seen my own life inside this, and it will not look the same to me again. Type I see, and let this be the first thing in a long time that you receive fully instead of faintly. Because that is what we are practicing right now, in real time, whether you noticed or not. Every time I have asked you to name something, to type something, to say the true thing with your own hands, I have been asking your receiver to lay down a deep track instead of a faint one. This whole message is not only telling you about reception, it is rehearsing it. By the time we reach Sunday, you will have practiced receiving so many times that when the real day comes, your faculty will already be warmed up and reaching back. Let me tell you about a woman who wrote to describe exactly this, because sometimes you need to hear it in a life and not only in a principle. She said that for years she had prayed and felt nothing, and she had decided the nothing was God being distant. She was a sincere woman. She had done the work. She had shown up faithfully to a well that gave her back only silence, and she had begun to believe the silence was rejection. And then something shifted in the way she received, not in the amount God was giving, but in her capacity to take it in. And she said the strangest thing. She said the prayers she had prayed for years, the ones that had felt like talking into a wall, suddenly seemed to have been answered all along. Not newly answered the whole time. She had been standing in the rain calling it a drought because her skin had gone numb to water. I tell you her story not to make you envious of a stranger, but to make you suspicious of your own verdict about your life. Because if a sincere woman could stand in provision and call it drought purely because her reception was dimmed, then it is at least possible, is it not, that you have been doing the same, that the distance you have felt from God was never God withdrawing, that it was the receiver dimming until even a present God felt absent. And if that is possible, then this Sunday is not the day God finally shows up for you. It is the day you finally get to feel that He never once left. Sit with the difference, because it changes everything about how you will experience that day. If you believe God has been absent, then a best day requires Him to finally arrive, and you will spend the day scanning the horizon for His arrival and probably miss Him. But if you understand that He has been present the whole time and your receiver was dimmed, then a best day requires nothing to arrive. It only requires the dial to turn. And a dial turning is a far surer thing than an arrival you have to wait for. He is already here. He has always been here. Sunday is the day you can feel it. I want to go deeper into how the receiver got dimmed in the first place, because I promised you would stop blaming yourself. And blame does not dissolve with a single sentence. It dissolves when you can trace the whole mechanism and see that at no point in the chain were you a failure. You were a survivor doing exactly what survival required. And survival, it turns out, dims the very faculty that makes life worth surviving for. That is the tragedy hidden inside every strong person, and I suspect you are a strong person, because the strong ones dim the most. Here is how it happens. A child receives fully because a child has not yet learned that receiving is dangerous. But somewhere early, something good is received and then taken away, and it hurts more than the child can hold. And a young mind, being brilliant and protective, draws a conclusion. If I do not receive so fully, it will not hurt so much when it is taken. And so the dial gets turned down a notch, on purpose, as an act of self-protection by a small person who had no other tools. That first turn is not a flaw, it is genius. It is a child inventing a way to survive a world that hurt. But the notch never gets turned back up on its own, because the mind that turned it down forgets it ever did. It grows up, believing the lowered setting is simply how the world is, grey, muted, safe. And then life adds notches. Every disappointment that confirms the original fear turns the dial a little further down. Every season of pushing through, of overriding what you felt in order to function, presses it lower. Every time you were praised for being strong when you were actually just numb, the numbness got rewarded and the dial got locked. By adulthood, a faculty that was born at full is running at a fraction, and the person operating it has no memory of ever setting it there. So they conclude the fraction is their nature. Do you hear that there is no failure anywhere in that chain? A child protected itself. An adult kept functioning. A survivor survived. At every step you did the wise and necessary thing for the moment you were in. The dimming is not the residue of your weakness. It is the residue of your strength, applied for years to the work of enduring. And that is exactly why you cannot be blamed for it, and exactly why it can be undone. Because a setting that was turned down can be turned back up, especially by someone who finally understands that it was only ever a setting. I need to prepare you for something now, because the turning up is coming, and there is a part of it that catches people off guard. When the receiver comes back up, the first thing you feel is not always joy. Sometimes it is grief, because a faculty that has been numb for years, when it comes back online, feels everything at once, including all the good it missed. People weep when their reception returns, and they think something has gone wrong, and nothing has gone wrong. That grief is the sound of a life being counted at last. It passes quickly and it leaves joy behind it, but I want you to know it may come first, so that when it does, on Sunday or before, you do not mistake the beginning of your healing for a relapse into pain. That is what a real awakening costs and what it gives. It asks you to feel the missed years for a moment so that you can stop missing years from here forward. It is the most worthwhile trade a human being can make, and this Sunday is when it becomes available to you. So do not be afraid of the ache. Do not turn the dial back down when the first wave of feeling comes. Let it move through you, because right behind it, closer than you can imagine, is the color you have been missing for longer than you have let yourself know. We are only getting started, and I know some of you are already feeling the dial move, already feeling the first threads of color coming back into these very minutes. Hold that. Do not grab it too tightly, and do not talk yourself out of it. In what comes next, I am going to take you into the exact difference between the two clocks, so you can know, with certainty, why your appointed day is this one, and not some distant someday, and I am going to begin showing you the way the receiver gets restored for good. Stay with me. The best part is still ahead, and you are closer to it than you have been in years. I want to take you all the way into the two clocks now, because your certainty about this Sunday depends on it. Most people live their entire lives on the first clock and never once suspect the second exists. The first clock is the one on your wall and the one in your chest that counts how long, how old, how late. It is a real clock and it measures a real thing, but it was never the clock your life is actually scheduled by, and living by it alone is the reason you feel behind when you are not behind at all. The people of the ancient world understood this in a way we have almost entirely lost. They knew that there was ordinary time, the steady ticking of ordinary days, one indistinguishable from the next. And they knew there was another kind of time entirely, a time that did not flow but arrived, a time that was not a duration but a door. You could not earn it by waiting, and you could not rush it by striving. It opened when a specific convergence was complete, when the person and the moment and the readiness had all finally lined up. And when it opened, more could happen in a single hour than had happened in the 10 flat years that led up to it. Here is why this matters for you, and not just as history. You have been evaluating your entire life by ordinary time. You have been counting the years the thing did not come, the seasons that passed, the birthdays that arrived, while the promise stayed out of reach. And by that measurement you have concluded that you are late, that you have missed it, that the window is closing or already closed. But that measurement is using the wrong clock. On the appointed clock, none of those years count against you the way you think. They were not delay. They were the convergence assembling. They were the readiness being built piece by piece until the door could open. And every single thing that made you feel most behind is, on the second clock, the very thing that made this Sunday possible. The years of waiting turned your dial down far enough that you finally noticed it, which is the first requirement of turning it back up. The disappointments emptied your hands of every counterfeit source of strength, which is the second requirement. The exhaustion brought you to the end of your own effort, which is the third. On the first clock, you were falling behind. On the second clock, you were arriving. Same years, same events. Completely different meaning, depending on which clock you read them by. I want you to make a decision right now about which clock you are going to trust, because you cannot serve both. If you keep reading your life by ordinary time, this Sunday will be one more square on a calendar, and you will let it pass. But if you are willing to consider that you live on an appointed clock, and that the appointed clock has moved to the exact position it was always moving toward, then this Sunday stops being a square and becomes a door. The door does not care how many flat squares came before it. Doors are not diminished by the length of the hallway. They open the same, whether you reach them in 1 year or 40. Let me give you the signs that an appointed time is near, because they are real, and I suspect you have been feeling several of them without knowing what they meant. The first sign is a strange and specific restlessness, not the restlessness of boredom, a deeper one, a sense that something is about to shift even though nothing on the outside has changed. People on the edge of an appointed time often describe feeling that they are waiting for something they cannot name, a low hum of anticipation underneath even their tired days. If you have felt that, if some part of you has been quietly braced for something even while your mind insisted nothing was coming, that is not anxiety. That is your spirit reading the second clock. The second sign is that the old ways of coping stop working. The numbing that used to get you through starts to fail. The distractions lose their grip. The strategies you used to manage your dimmed life suddenly feel thin and unsatisfying, and you cannot figure out why the things that used to work have stopped. This unsettles people, and they read it as a decline, as things getting worse. It is the opposite. When an appointed time approaches, the coping mechanisms fail on purpose, because you cannot walk through the door with your hands full of the old survival. They fail, so your hands will be empty enough to receive. The third sign is that your dimming becomes visible to you, which is precisely what has been happening in these very minutes. For years the receiver was turned down, and you did not even know it was a setting, because you had no contrast, no name, no framework to see it by. And then, right as the appointed time nears, the dimming steps into the light. You start to notice the grayness as grayness instead of as reality. You start to suspect that you are missing something. That suspicion is not despair. It is the third sign. You cannot turn a dial back up until you can see that it was turned down, and the fact that you can finally see it means the turning is close. Feel how many of those you have been living inside. the restlessness you could not explain, the old comforts that stopped comforting, the sudden ability to see the grey as grey. You thought those were signs that you were falling apart. They are signs that you are arriving. The very symptoms you have been reading as evidence of decline are the standard signature of an appointed time drawing near. You are not breaking down. You are being made ready, and the readiness is nearly complete. This is the moment to mark, so let it lay down deep. If you have felt even two of those three signs, the restlessness, the failing comforts, the sudden visibility of the grey, I want you to type one word where you are watching from. Type the word arriving, not coming someday, arriving, present tense, because that is what the signs mean, and your hands should say what is true before your mind catches up. Arriving. Let it stand there as testimony that you finally read the right clock. Now, I want to close a loop I opened earlier, because you have carried it long enough, and you are ready for it now. I told you there was a mechanism by which the receiver gets turned back up, a way that works on the layer underneath your thoughts, underneath the practices you already tried and abandoned. I told you a small number of people came to understand that the dimming has a physical signature and built a way to reach that layer directly. And I told you I would show you what it is when you were ready. You are closer to ready now, so let me bring it a little further into the light, though not yet all the way. Here is what those people understood. The faculty of reception, the receiver we have been naming this whole time, is not only spiritual. It runs on something physical, a way the two halves of your inner life are meant to work together in synchrony. In childhood, that synchrony is the default. The two halves speak to each other freely, and reception runs at full. And the dimming we have been describing, the slow turning down across a lifetime, corresponds to those two halves, falling out of synchrony, drifting apart, until the reception that depends on their cooperation runs at a fraction. This is not poetry. It is measurable, and it means the restoration is not only a matter of belief, it is a matter of restoring the synchrony. For most of history, there was no direct way to do that. You could pray, and prayer helps, but prayer was working uphill against a physical dyssynchrony. It was never designed to repair by itself. You could meditate for years and slowly, partially, coax the halves back toward each other. But it was slow and it was hard, and most people gave up long before the synchrony returned, and then blamed themselves, exactly as you have blamed yourself. What changed recently is that a small number of people found a way to restore the synchrony directly at the physical layer in a fraction of the time, without depending on your discipline or your ability to feel your way there. I am going to show you exactly what that is very soon. For now, let it settle. The receiver runs on a synchrony. The synchrony can be restored. There is now a direct way. Hold it. I can feel some of you leaning in, wanting me to hand it over right now, and I am not going to yet. And I want you to trust the timing, because it is the same lesson as the two clocks. If I hand you the way before you have fully seen your condition, you will treat it as a technique, and it will not hold. Exactly like everything else you tried and abandoned, the way only works when it lands in a person who understands what it is repairing and why. So let me finish preparing the ground, and then I will place it in your hands at the moment you can actually receive it, which is the only moment it does any good. Let me show you what your life begins to look like when the synchrony is restored and the receiver comes back to full, because I want you to have a target vivid enough to walk toward. Picture the ordinary parts of your day beginning to return their color, not because your circumstances have transformed, but because you can finally take them in. The morning light, the taste of the first cup, the sound of someone you love moving through the house. These come back first, the small received things, and they come back with a force that surprises people, because they have been starved of them for so long without knowing it. Then something deeper returns. Your prayers stop feeling like talking into a wall, because the wall was never God. The wall was your own dimming, and when the receiver comes back up, the presence you had concluded was absent turns out to have been filling the room the entire time. People describe this as the single most disorienting and beautiful part of the restoration. The discovery that the God they had been straining to reach across a great distance was never at a distance at all, that the distance was inside their own dimmed faculty, and that the moment the faculty came back up, the distance simply was not there. And then the largest thing returns, the one you have almost given up on. Hope, real hope, not the forced optimism you have been manufacturing and losing. Because hope is not a decision you make against the evidence. Hope is what a restored receiver produces automatically when it finally starts logging the good again and building a reserve. You cannot talk yourself into durable hope while your receiver is dimmed, and you do not have to manufacture it once your receiver is restored. It rises on its own from the reserve, the way it did when you were a child, and hope was simply the natural state of a faculty that received fully. That is what is being returned to you, not a mood. Your original capacity to hope. I want to catch the objection that is rising in some of you right now, because it is an honest one, and it deserves an honest answer. Some of you are thinking, this sounds wonderful, but I have heard wonderful before, and every time I let myself believe it, I paid for it with a deeper fall. So you are holding back, guarding the dial, refusing to hope so you cannot be hurt. I honor the wound under that, but I want to show you the flaw in it. The strategy of refusing to hope in order to avoid pain does not actually avoid the pain. It only trades a sharp pain you might feel for a dull pain you definitely feel every single day, forever. You have chosen the guaranteed low-grade ache of a dimmed life over the risk of a bright one, and I understand why. But this Sunday is your chance to make a different trade, and this time you will not be making it alone or unarmed. You will understand the mechanism. You will know the way. You will not be white-knuckling a hope you cannot sustain. You will be turning up a receiver that then sustains the hope for you. So let me ask you to do one more act of reception before we go into the deepest part of this, because you are about to receive the most important thing I have to give you, and I want your faculty warmed up and open when it arrives. If you are willing, even a little, to consider that the guarded life has cost you more than the risky one would, type 3 words. Where you are wafer, type open the dial. Say it with your hands as an act of willingness, not certainty. You do not have to be sure. You only have to be willing. Open the dial. Let that willingness be the doorway through which everything else can come. Because what comes next is the turning point of everything. I have shown you the dimming, the interference, the 2 clocks, the signs that your day is near, and the truth that the receiver runs on a synchrony that can be restored. Now I am going to take you into the deepest closure of all, the plain and simple why underneath everything, and then I am going to place in your hands the exact way the receiver gets turned back up and stays up. This is the part you have been waiting for without knowing it. Do not leave now. What is on the other side of these next minutes is the reason this Sunday was decided in the first place. Stay with me all the way through. You are almost home. Let me make the dimming concrete for you now, because so far I have spoken of it as a setting and a synchrony, and those are true. But I want you to see it in the actual texture of your days, in 3 specific places where it has been robbing you without your knowing. When you can recognize it in the ordinary moments, you stop mistaking it for your personality and you start reaching for the dial. The first place is the dread that arrives on an ordinary evening for no reason you can name. You are not in danger. Nothing bad has happened. And yet, as the light fades, a low heaviness settles over you, a sense that the week ahead is a weight, that the days are a treadmill you cannot step off. People blame the evening, the season, the weather, but it is not the evening. It is the receiver, too dim to register the quiet goods that an evening actually holds, the rest, the softening, the ending of the day, so that in the absence of felt good, the default heaviness fills the space. A restored receiver experiences that same evening as a gentle closing, a settling, even a sweetness. Same evening. The difference is entirely the dial. The second place is the strange emptiness that follows the things that were supposed to make you happy. You reached a goal. You got the thing you worked for. You had the moment you had been waiting for, and it landed flat. You felt a flicker, and then nothing, and then a quiet confusion, and maybe even a shame, because you thought something was wrong with you for not feeling what you were supposed to feel. Nothing was wrong with you. The receiver was dim. The good was real, and it arrived, and your faculty could not hold it, so it passed through you and left you standing in an achievement you could not feel. This is one of the cruelest works of the dimming, because it makes you believe that even getting what you want will not satisfy you, and that belief slowly kills your reason to reach for anything at all. But it was never true. It was not that the good could not satisfy you, it was that you could not receive it. Restore the receiver, and the very same kind of good lands with a fullness that surprises you. The third place is the muted reunion, and this one may be the tenderest. Someone you love comes back, a child calls, a friend returns, an embrace happens, and you feel, at most, a fraction of what the moment deserves. And later, alone, you grieve, quietly, because you know you love them, and you could not feel it in the moment the way you wanted to, and you wonder if something in you is broken, if you have gone cold. If you are incapable of the love other people seem to feel so easily, hear me very carefully. You are not cold. You are not incapable of love. Your love is fully intact underneath the gray. What is dim is not your love. It is your reception of your own love, the faculty that lets you feel the thing that is already there. And when that faculty comes back up, you do not have to manufacture love you lost. You simply get to feel, at last, the love that was in you the whole time, at full volume, in the arms of the people you were afraid you had stopped loving. Sit with those three for a moment, because I suspect you have lived all of them, and I suspect no one has ever told you they were the same thing. The evening dread, the flat achievement, the muted reunion. Three different faces of one dimmed receiver. And that is actually wonderful news, though it may not feel like it yet, because three separate problems would need three separate cures, but three faces of one condition need only one restoration. Turn the receiver back up, and all three change at once. The evenings soften, the achievements land, the reunions come alive. You do not have to fix your life in three places. You have to repair one faculty, and the three, and 100 others you have not even named, all shift together. I want you to notice how much lighter it is to understand it this way. For years you have been carrying what felt like a collection of separate failures. You cannot enjoy your evenings. You cannot feel satisfied by your wins. You cannot love the way you want to. Each one felt like its own indictment, its own proof that you are somehow defective across the whole range of your life. And now you can see that it was never a collection of failures. It was one dimmed dial expressing itself in many rooms. That is not many problems. It is one, and it is repairable, and its repair is exactly what this Sunday holds. If you have recognized yourself in even one of those three, the evening dread, the flat achievement, the muted reunion, I want you to mark it, because recognition is the beginning of the dial turning. type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, "That is me," not with shame this time, but with the strange relief of finally understanding a thing that has confused and accused you for years. That is me, and now I know what it is, and now I know it is one thing, and now I know it can be repaired. Type it, and let the recognition become the first turn of your dial, because that is what recognition does. It is not a small thing to correctly name what has been happening to you. For years, the dimming worked in the dark, unnamed, disguised as your personality, and anything unnamed cannot be reached for or repaired. The moment you can say, "That is the dimmed receiver, that is not who I am," you have taken the single most important step, because you have moved the condition out of the category of identity and into the category of something that can be fixed. You have been doing that step by step this whole time. And every recognition has been turning the dial a little already, which is why some of you feel lighter than you did when we began. That lightness is not my words. It is your own receiver, responding to being correctly understood, beginning to come back up. Hold it. We are going to build on it now, because I promised you not only to help you understand the dimming, but to place in your hands the exact way it gets repaired for good. That is where we go next, and it is the turning point of everything. So let me ask you the question that everything has been building toward, the one whose answer changes how you use everything I have given you. Why does knowing all of this still not produce the change? Why can a person understand the dimming, name the interference, read the appointed clock, and still wake up grey on Monday? You have felt that before, have you not? The insight that thrilled you at night and evaporated by morning. There is a reason for it, and the reason is not that you are broken. The answer is not in your mind at all. It is somewhere you have not yet been shown how to reach. Here is the plain truth, stated as simply as I can state it, because you have earned plainness after all this depth. The receiver is dimmed at a layer underneath your thoughts. That means no amount of thinking, believing, deciding, or understanding can turn it back up. For the same reason, you cannot decide your way to a clearer view through a fogged window. Thought operates on one layer. The dimming lives on another, a layer below, in the physical synchrony between the two halves of your inner life. And every tool you were ever handed, the affirmations, the mindset work, the positive thinking, all of it operated on the thought layer, which is why all of it lifted you for a few days and then let you fall. It was never reaching the layer where the problem actually lives. That is the whole of it. That is why the insight never held. Not because the insight was false, and not because you were weak. Because insight is a thought layer tool, and the dimming is a below thought condition, and you cannot fix a below thought condition with a thought layer tool, no matter how hard or how sincerely you try. You have been trying to repair a fogged pane by describing clarity to it. The describing was beautiful. It simply could not reach the glass. So the question becomes very focused. What reaches the layer below thought? What can restore the physical synchrony between the two halves so the receiver can come back up and stay up? And that is the whole of what you actually need, not more understanding. You have enough understanding now. You need the one thing that works on the correct layer. And the good news, the news this entire message has been walking you toward, is that such a thing now exists. It is real, it is tested, and it is within your reach today. That is who you have been. A sincere person applying thought layer tools to a below thought condition and blaming yourself when they failed. That is not who you are required to stay. The clarity you now have is real, but clarity alone is not the turning of the dial. You know what has been blocking you. The only question left is this. Now that you know, what do you do with it? Let me tell you what a small team of people did with it. Several years ago, a group of neuroscientists led by a man named Dr. Daniel Barone in New York, set out to solve exactly the problem I have been describing to you, though they came at it from the physical side rather than the spiritual one. They understood that the two halves of the brain are meant to work in synchrony, that this synchrony is the physical foundation of full reception, of clarity, of the alive and undimmed state that is natural in childhood and rare in adults. And they understood that modern life systematically pulls those halves out of synchrony from the time we are very young until most adults are running at a small fraction of the reception they were born with. They had, in other words, found the physical signature of the dimming. The problem was that restoring the synchrony directly had only ever been possible in specialized clinical settings, using neural sync technology that required over an hour per session and equipment that cost thousands of dollars. In-person work with this kind of technology runs around $300 an hour. A machine to do it at home costs around $7,000. So the restoration existed, but it was locked behind a door that almost no one could afford to walk through. And Dr. Barone and his team decided that was wrong, that a repair this fundamental to being alive should not belong only to the wealthy, and they spent years on a single question. Could the essence of that hour-long clinical protocol be compressed and refined into something a person could use at home, without equipment, in a few minutes a day? They call it the genius switch. The genius switch is what they built. They took over an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol used in specialized medical settings, and through an intensive process of compression and refinement, they turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day, headphones, eyes closed. That is the entire physical requirement. You do not have to do anything, force anything, or feel anything in particular. You put on the headphones, you close your eyes, and the sequence does the work on the layer you have never been able to reach by trying. And I want to be precise about what it is and is not, because you have tried things before and been disappointed, and you deserve to know exactly why this is different. It is not a meditation app. It is not a mood soundtrack. It is not one of those products that only touches a narrow slice of the picture and leaves the rest untouched. It is a targeted auditory sequence engineered on the foundation of Nobel Prize research into the two hemispheres, built to restore the synchrony between them, which is to say 202, 22, 2020, 200, 2020. Built to reach the exact layer underneath thought where your dimming has been living this whole time. It does not lecture the fogged window, it clears the glass. If you have tried other things in this space before and found them underwhelming, that experience is not an argument against this. It is an argument for it, because the reason those things underwhelmed you is that they worked on a fraction of the picture. They addressed a surface layer and left the synchrony untouched, so the receiver stayed dimmed and you concluded nothing works. What Dr. Barone and his team built targets the synchrony itself at the whole brain level, using a multi-layer protocol developed from years of clinical refinement. That is a different mechanism, and a different mechanism is exactly why it produces a different category of result. Let me tell you about a woman from California, because principles convince the mind, but lives convince the heart. She had prayed for years and felt nothing, and had come to believe the nothing was rejection. A sincere woman, one who had done the work. After about 10 days with the sequence, she said something cleared. A channel that had been blocked was suddenly open. And here is the part I want you to catch. She did not say she tried harder. She said the receiver had been repaired. The prayers she had been praying into a wall were suddenly landing, not because God had finally shown up, but because she could finally receive the God who had been there all along. That is the whole of it, lived out in one woman. And there is a man from Texas who described the same thing from the other side, the practical side. He had held things together for everyone around him until his own interior life went thin. 2 weeks in, he woke up and said his mind was running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so constant he had stopped. Even registering it as fog was simply gone. The genius switch is not for everyone, and I want to be honest about that. It is for the chosen one, who understands that God prepared not only the promise, but the mind that has to walk into it. It is for the person who has been sincere for years, who has done the work, who has felt the call clearly, and kept returning to it even when the evidence refused to cooperate. It is for the one who is finally willing to stop treating the fog as a character flaw and start treating it as something with a specific address that can be repaired. Most people who hear about this will scroll right past it. They have accepted the reduced version of their own mind as permanent. You are still here. That is not an accident. That is the exact kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. Now let me tell you what something like this is worth, and then what it actually costs, because the gap between the two is part of the story. Restoring hemisphere synchrony in a clinical setting, as I told you, runs about $300 an hour in person, and a home machine to do it runs around $7,000. Dr. Barone and his team could have priced this near what the clinical equivalent costs. Colleagues who saw what it did told them it would be an incredible value even at $500, but that would have rebuilt the very door they were trying to tear down, the door that keeps this locked away from the people who need it most. So they did not price it at $500. They did not price it at $200. They did not price it at $100. They released it at $49. And then they went further, because on this page today there is an additional $10 off, which brings the entire thing, the compressed essence of an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the repair for the exact layer you have never been able to reach by trying, to $39. One time. $39. That is less than most people spend without thinking on a dinner they will not remember, in exchange for the restoration of the faculty that determines whether they can receive anything at all. Plus, and this matters, it comes with 4 things added at no cost. A guided visualization from a well-known calm and meditation resource to deepen the work, a practical guide to the common foods that quietly worsen the fog, one that can save a household well over $100 a month at the ordinary places you already shop. A manifestation text over 100 years old, considered by many to be the root of nearly every modern technique for drawing good toward you. And a simple printable set of the core habits that keep the receiver turned up once it has been restored. Those are included, not sold, when you take the step today. And here is the part that removes the last of the risk from your shoulders and places it entirely on theirs. The whole thing is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen to it once. Listen to it 80 times. If it does not do for you what it has done for over 18,000 people, every dollar comes back to you. No conditions, no fine print, no hoops. That is not the posture of someone selling you a hope. That is the posture of a team that has watched this work so many times, they are willing to carry all of the risk so that you can carry none of it. The only thing you cannot get back is another year of gray mornings spent believing the dimming was who you are. I have to tell you one true thing about the timing, and then I will let you sit with it without pressure. The $39 price is not guaranteed beyond this page. Dr. Barone and his team have communicated that the price will increase. I am not telling you that to rush you, because a decision made in panic is a decision that does not hold. I am telling you because it is simply true, and because it would be its own kind of dimming for me to hide a true thing from you. What limited access to clinical-grade neurological restoration looks like is a low price that does not stay low forever. You can find the path in the description and the pinned comment whenever your own spirit confirms it. It has been there this whole time, waiting, the same way the good has been waiting, for a receiver ready to take it in. Now, I do not want you to move on that out of fear, and I do not want you to move on it out of pressure. Those are the wrong fuels, and they never last. I want you to notice something instead. The resistance you may be feeling right now, the voice saying not yet, not this, not for you, the very flinch we named earlier, is not neutral information. It is the same hand that has been reaching for your dial your entire life. And it always gets loudest at the exact moment you are closest to the thing that would turn the dial back up for good. You do not have to obey it. You only have to recognize it. That is all defense has ever required. So if your spirit is quiet and clear and says yes, the path is below, and it will still be below when you are ready. And if your spirit says not yet, honor that too, and stay with me, because there is more of your restoration to receive right here, and we are not finished. We are, in fact, about to reach the most important part of all. Now I want to take you somewhere gentler, because you have received a great deal, and your faculty needs to settle and integrate before we climb to the peak. So, set everything practical aside for a moment. Whatever you decide about the path below, decide it later. Right now, I only want to walk with you into what your life actually becomes when the receiver is restored. Because you have been so long in the gray that I think you have forgotten the shape of your own future, and I want to give it back to you. Let us start with the mornings, because mornings are where the dimming has hurt you most. Right now, your mornings arrive already gray. You open your eyes, and the weight is there before the day has even done anything to earn it. It is not that something bad has happened, it is that the receiver is too dim to register anything good, so the default state is a low, flat heaviness that colors everything after it. That is your baseline, and you have lived on it so long. You think it is simply what mornings are. Now, picture the morning after the synchrony returns. You open your eyes and, before a single circumstance has changed, the weight is not there. In its place is something you have not felt since you were young. A neutral that is actually pleasant. A quiet readiness. The light through the window reaches you instead of stopping at the glass. The first sounds of the house reach you. You lie there for a moment and realize, with a strange ache, that nothing is wrong. Not because your problems vanished overnight, but because the faculty that used to convert everything into gray has come back online, and its default is no longer heaviness. Its default is reception. That is the first thing you get back, your mornings. And when your mornings change, the whole architecture of your day changes on top of them. Now let me take you into the part of your life you have quietly grieved the most, which is your relationships. Here is what the dimming has done to them, and I say it gently because it was never your fault. When the receiver is dim, the love that people offer you cannot fully land. Someone can care for you genuinely, and you feel it faintly, and so you conclude at the bottom of yourself that you are not truly loved, or not loved enough, or alone in a way no one understands. And that conclusion changes how you show up. You guard. You withdraw. You test. Not because you are difficult, but because a person who cannot receive love has to protect themselves from a loneliness that feels total, even inside a room full of people who love them. Watch what happens when the receiver comes back up. The love that was always being offered begins to land. The affection, in a familiar voice, which used to bounce off you, reaches you. The loyalty of the people who stayed, which you could never quite feel and therefore never quite trusted, becomes real to you at last. And as it lands, the guarding relaxes, because you no longer have to protect yourself from a loneliness that is dissolving. People around you will feel the change before they can name it. They will say, "You seem lighter, warmer, more present," and they will not know that what actually happened is that you finally became able to receive what they had been giving you all along. Your relationships do not require new people. They require a receiver that can finally feel the ones you already have. And then there is the part of you that has felt most abandoned, the part that reaches for God and touches only wall. I have told you already what returns there, but I want you to feel it as a future you are walking toward, and not only a principle you understood. Picture a prayer, weeks from now, that does not feel like effort. Picture the strange and overwhelming realization, mid-sentence, that you are not talking into a void, that the presence you had concluded was absent is so close it is almost too much to hold. Picture weeping, not from grief this time, but from the sheer relief of a reunion with someone who, it turns out, never went anywhere. That is not a fantasy for the spiritually elite. That is the standard experience of a restored receiver, and it is on the road in front of you. I want to speak to your calling now, because you have one, and the dimming has convinced you that you do not, or that you missed it, or that it was for someone more qualified. Here is the truth. Your calling did not disappear. Your ability to sense it dimmed, and a calling you cannot sense feels like a calling you do not have. When the receiver comes back up, the calling does not need to be rebuilt. It was there the whole time, waiting under the gray, and it comes back into view the moment you can perceive again. People describe this as the return of a knowing they had lost, a quiet certainty about what they are for, that they assumed was gone forever and discover was only obscured. You are not too late for your purpose. You have been unable to see it through a dimmed faculty, and this Sunday, that faculty comes back up. I want to be careful and honest here, the way I have tried to be honest with you about everything, because I will not restore your hope by lying to you. The restored receiver does not hand you a life with no problems. That is not what it does, and I would be dimming you again to pretend otherwise. What it hands you is the capacity to receive again, which means your problems remain, but they no longer arrive into an empty reserve. They arrive into a person who is being fed daily by 1,000 small received goods, who has a growing store of joy and presence to draw on, who meets hardship from fullness instead of from a scraped and grey depletion. Same problems. Completely different person meeting them. That is the honest promise, and it is a far greater one than a problem-free life, because a problem-free life does not exist, and a restored receiver does. Let me return, only for a moment and softly, to the way this restoration actually happens, because I do not want you to leave with the vision and no road to it. Remember, everything I have just described, the mornings, the relationships, the returned presence, the recovered calling, all of it rests on one physical thing. The synchrony between the two halves coming back into alignment so the receiver can run at full again. And remember that the reason your previous attempts to feel this way never held is that they worked on the thought layer while the synchrony lives underneath it. What reaches the synchrony directly is the 8-minute sequence I described, the compressed essence of clinical neural sync technology used with headphones and closed eyes, on the exact layer where the dimming lives. That is the bridge between the grey life you have and the received life I have been describing. It is in the description and the pinned comment. I will not mention it again after this, because I want these final minutes to belong entirely to you and to your restoration, and not to anything else. But I would be failing you if I painted the destination and hid the road. Now, come back with me, because I want to give your reception one more piece of practice before we rise to the closing, and this one is important. I want you to receive something about yourself that you have refused for years. Are you willing? Then, here it is. You are not a burden. You are not too much. You are not the problem in the rooms you walk into. You have believed some version of that for a long time, and you believed it because a dimmed receiver could not feel the evidence to the contrary, and in the absence of felt evidence, the old accusation filled the silence. But the accusation was never true. It was only unopposed. And in this moment, I am opposing it, and I am asking your hands to oppose it with me. If any part of you is willing to release the verdict that you are too much, that you are a burden, that you are the problem, type 2 words where you are watching. Type I release. Do not wait until you fully believe it. Belief comes after the release, not before. Type I release and let your hands begin the letting go that your heart will finish. I release. That verdict has ridden on your back for years, and it was never yours to carry, and this is the moment it comes off. Feel how much lighter the next breath is. That is not imagination. That is what happens when a receiver, even slightly restored, stops running the old accusation on a loop and lets a true thing in instead. You have just done, in miniature, the very thing this whole message is about. You received a truth about yourself that the dimming had been blocking. Multiply that by a receiver turned all the way back up, running every day, and you begin to understand what this Sunday actually holds for you. Not one released verdict, a whole life of them. A faculty that finally lets the truth in faster than the lies can accumulate. We are close now to the highest part of all, the part where I speak something over your life directly, and I want you to be settled and open when we get there. So, take a breath with me before we climb. In through the nose, slow, and let it go. One more. And as you breathe, feel that a great deal has already shifted in you in these minutes, more than you came expecting, and that the shift is real, and that it is only the beginning. Stay with me just a little longer. What comes next is the reason this Sunday was decided before the week began, and it belongs to you. I want to answer a question that some of you have been quietly holding since the very first sentence. Why Sunday? Why did I tell you it would be Sunday and not any other day? And is that only a manner of speaking, or is there something to it? There is something to it, and I want to give it to you because it will make the day even surer when it comes. Sunday has always carried a particular weight in the life of the Spirit. It is the day set apart, the first day, the day of rest and of rising, the day when ordinary labor stops and something is allowed to be received that the striving of the other 6 days crowds out. And that is precisely the condition a dimmed receiver needs in order to come back up. The dimming is fed by striving, by the endless producing and managing and pushing through that pulls the two halves out of synchrony. A day set apart from that striving is a day when the synchrony has room to begin returning on its own. Most people waste their Sundays. They fill them with the same restless doing that fills every other day, or they collapse into a numb exhaustion that is not the same as rest. And so the one day built to let reception return gets spent exactly like the 6 that dimmed it. But you are not going to waste this one. You are going to come into this Sunday knowing what it is for, knowing that it is a day set apart, a day when the striving stops long enough for the receiver to breathe, a day whose whole ancient purpose was to let a person receive what the working days would not let in. You are going to cooperate with the day instead of fighting it. And a Sunday cooperated with is a powerful thing. There is a reason rest was commanded and not merely suggested. The one who made you knew that a creature who never stops striving slowly loses the capacity to receive, and he built a rhythm into the week to protect that capacity, one day in 7, when the dial gets a chance to come back up. You have been overriding that rhythm for years, the way the whole modern world overrides it, and paying for it with a receiver that never gets to recover. This Sunday, you stop overriding it. You let the day be what it was always meant to be. And a receiver that has been longing for exactly this kind of rest responds to it faster than you would believe. So when Sunday comes, I want you to treat it as holy, not in a heavy or religious performance way, but in the simplest sense. Let it be set apart. Let some of the striving stop. Let yourself rest in a way you have not let yourself rest in a long time. And into that rest, the reception you have been denied all week, all month, all year, will begin to flow, because you will finally have made the room it needs. That is why Sunday, not because a single day is magic, but because the day set apart was always the day designed for exactly the restoration you now need, and you are finally going to let it do its ancient work in you. And here is the beautiful thing. Once you have had one Sunday like that, one true day of set-apart rest that let your receiver come back up, you will understand how to give yourself smaller versions of it through the week, so that the dial does not fully dim again between Sundays. The day teaches you the rhythm, and the rhythm keeps you restored. That is how a single best day becomes a restored life. It shows you the pattern, and then you live the pattern, and the pattern keeps the light up. So come into this Sunday ready to rest, ready to receive, ready to let the day be holy. It has been waiting to do this for you for a very long time. Before we rise to the closing, I have to show you who you become on the other side of this, because a restored receiver does not only give you back your mornings and your relationships and your sense of God, it gives you back yourself. And there is a specific self waiting under the gray that I want you to meet, because you have forgotten it is there. There is a version of you that sees, not sees in the ordinary way, but perceives underneath the surface of things, senses what is really happening in a room, in a person, in a season, before anyone has said a word. You had this as a child. Children see straight through the performances adults put on, and then the dimming took it, because seeing requires a receiver running at full, and a dimmed receiver goes blind to the deeper layer and can only read the surface. You have called yourself naive, or too trusting, or bad at reading people, and none of that was ever true. You were not naive. You were dimmed. And when the receiver comes back up, the seeing comes back with it, and you begin to perceive again what you were always meant to perceive. That is one of the selves waiting for you, the one who sees. There is another self, and this one carries something heavier and more sacred. You come from a line, and somewhere in that line there is a pattern of pain that has repeated for generations, a way of dimming that was handed down from a parent who received it from a parent, each one turning the dial down a little further and passing the lowered setting to the next, as if it were simply the family nature. You inherited a dimmed receiver, in part, from people who never knew theirs was dim. And here is what the restoration makes you. It makes you the one in whom the pattern stops. The one who receives the lowered dial and does not pass it on, but turns it back up, and hands the next generation, not the gray they would have inherited, but the color you recovered. You become the cycle breaker. And that is not a small thing. That is one of the most important things a human being can be, because it changes not only your life, but the lives of people who will never know your name. If something in you just went very still at the words cycle breaker, if you felt the weight and the calling of it at once, that is not an accident. That stillness is recognition. It is the self under the gray responding to being seen. Let me give it somewhere to land, because a recognition this important should not pass unmarked. Type 3 words where you are watching from. Type IT stops here, meaning the pattern, the inherited dimming, the gray that has run in your line for generations. It stops here with you in this season, because you are the one who finally understood it was a setting and not a fate. Type it and let your hands make the vow your ancestors could not. And there is a third self, and it may be the most beautiful one of all, though it is born from your deepest wound. Everything you have suffered in the gray Every year the dimming cost you, every lonely morning and unanswered prayer and unfelt love, all of it was real, and I will never tell you it was not. But here is what the restoration does with it. It does not waste it. When your receiver comes back up and you walk out of the grey, you carry something that people who were never dimmed do not have. You know the country of the numb from the inside. You know how it feels to stand in the rain and call it drought. And that knowing makes you able to reach people still trapped there in a way that no untouched person ever could. Your wound becomes a map. The very years you thought were stolen from you become the thing that qualifies you to lead others out. You become the wounded healer, and there is no more powerful kind, because the ones you help will trust you precisely because you have been where they are. Do you see what has just happened to your own story? Everything the dimming took, we have now accounted for, and not one piece of it is waste. The blindness becomes sight. The inherited grey becomes the cycle broken. The stolen years become the map that saves others. This is what restoration means. It is not that the past is erased. It is that the past is redeemed, taken up, and turned into the exact material of the self you were always meant to become. A receiver turned back up does not give you a different life. It gives you your own life back, with every dark chapter revealed to have been preparing a light you could not yet see. Let me speak directly to the stolen years now, because I know they haunt you, and I will not leave them unhealed. There is an old promise given to people who had lost years to a devouring they could not stop, and the promise was not that the years would be forgotten or that they did not matter. The promise was that the years would be restored, given back, repaid. That a season of devouring would be followed by a season in which the lost time was returned with such fullness that the loss itself was swallowed up. I believe that promise is for you, and I believe this Sunday is where its down payment lands, because the restoration of the receiver is precisely how stolen years get returned. Not by turning back the clock, which cannot be done, but by so filling the days ahead with the reception you were denied, that the sum of what you receive from here forward overflows what the grey took from you. Think of it this way. If the dimming caused you to receive at a fraction for 20 years, then a receiver restored to full does not merely stop the loss, it begins to pay it back, because now every day deposits into a reserve that was empty for 2 decades, and it deposits at full strength instead of at a fraction. The math of restoration is not subtraction anymore. It is compounding, and a life that compounds, received good, day after day, from a restored faculty, catches up to and then passes what the grey years cost, faster than you would believe. That is what it means for the years to be given back, not erased, outweighed, overwhelmed by an abundance on the other side. I want to catch one more piece of resistance before we climb, because it tends to rise right here, right when the vision gets this large. Some part of you is whispering that this is too much for you specifically. That restoration like this is for other people, more spiritual people, more deserving people, people who did not fail as many times as you did. I want to dismantle that whisper completely, because it is the last wall between you and your Sunday. The restoration is not a reward for the deserving. If it were, none of us would qualify, because a dimmed receiver cannot earn its way back to full any more than a fogged window can wash itself. The restoration is a repair, and a repair does not ask whether the broken thing deserves to work again. It asks only whether it can be fixed, and your receiver can be fixed. Your worthiness was never the question. Your receiver was. So set the whisper down. You do not have to become deserving first. You do not have to fix your failures first. You do not have to feel worthy first. Worthiness is a thought layer concern, and your restoration happens underneath the thought layer, on the physical synchrony that does not check your record before it comes back into alignment. The most disqualified feeling person watching me right now is exactly as eligible for a restored receiver as the most confident, because eligibility here is not about merit, it is about mechanism, and the mechanism does not discriminate, it simply repairs. Let that be the death of the last excuse. If you have been telling yourself that this kind of restoration is for someone else, someone better, someone who has not failed the way you have, I want your hands to end that lie right now. Type 2 words where you are watching. Type I qualify. Not because you have earned it, because eligibility here was never about earning. I qualify on the grounds of a mechanism that repairs without asking for your resume. Type it and let the last wall fall. Now we are ready to climb, because every excuse has been answered, every wall has fallen, every self under the grey has been named and called back into the light. You know what has been dimming you. You know it was never your fault. You know it can be restored, and how, and that you qualify. There is nothing left between you and your Sunday except to receive the blessing I am about to speak over your life. So take one more breath, settle into the place where you are, and come with me into the sacred part of this, the part I have been protecting for you all along. It is time. I want to do something with you now that words alone cannot do, and I need you to let me lead you into it slowly. Wherever you are, if it is safe to do so, I want you to soften, not close down. Soften. Let your shoulders come down from where they have been braced. Let your jaw unclench. Let the hands that have been holding on to everything open just slightly. We are going to practice the very reception that this Sunday will restore, and we are going to do it together right now so that your faculty remembers the shape of it before the day arrives. Take a slow breath and bring your attention to the top of your head. I want you to imagine a warmth there, gentle, unhurried, the kind of light a low sun lays across a room in the late afternoon. And I want you to let that warmth begin, very slowly, to move down through you. And as it moves, imagine it doing one simple thing, turning the dial back up wherever it passes. Not forcing, not straining, simply restoring the setting that was always meant to be there. Let it move down across your face, and as it passes your eyes, let them soften, because your eyes have been working so hard to watch for the next disappointment that they forgot how to simply see. Let the warmth move down through your throat, and as it passes, let something loosen there, because your throat has been holding words you never got to say, and swallowing truths you were not allowed to speak. Let it move down into your chest, and here I want you to slow down and stay a moment, because your chest is where the dimming has lived the longest. Feel the warmth settle into the center of your chest, right behind the breastbone, in the place where you have carried the heaviness of every gray morning. And I want you to imagine that this is the exact location of the receiver we have been naming this whole time, right there. And I want you to imagine the warmth reaching it, finding the dial turned down low, and beginning, gently, to turn it back up. You may feel something physical as I say this, a warmth, a loosening, a pressure that wants to release into tears. Whatever rises, let it rise. Do not turn the dial back down to stay safe. This is the safety. This is the repair, beginning. Let the warmth continue down through your stomach, releasing the knot of anxiety that has lived there so long you stopped noticing it. Down through your hips, where you have held years of tension you were never given permission to set down. Down through your legs, all the way to your feet, so that the warmth has now passed through the whole of you, and every place it touched has been turned, however slightly, back toward the setting you were born at. Take a breath here. Feel that you are, right now, a little more open than you were when this message began. That opening is real. Hold it. Now, from inside that opening, I want to walk you into the Sunday itself. because I want you to arrive there already knowing the shape of it. Picture the night before. You go to sleep, and, for once, the last thoughts before sleep are not a rehearsal of everything wrong. Something in you knows. A quiet expectancy, the good kind, the kind a child feels the night before, something wonderful. You may not be able to name what you are expecting, but you feel it, that low hum of anticipation we named earlier as one of the signs. You sleep more deeply than you have in a long time, and then the morning. You wake, and the first thing you notice is what is missing. The weight. The grey. It has not arrived. You lie still for a moment, almost afraid to move, the way you might hold your breath so as not to disturb something fragile and beautiful. But it is not fragile. It does not leave when you move. You sit up, and the light in the room reaches you, genuinely reaches you, all the way in, the way it did when you were small, and you realize you are receiving. The faculty is up, the window is clear, and a completely ordinary morning is landing in you as the best morning you can remember, not because the morning is extraordinary, but because you are finally able to take an ordinary morning fully in. Picture the first cup and how it tastes like something. Picture stepping outside and how the air actually touches you. Picture a message from someone, an ordinary kind word, and how, instead of bouncing off your numbness, it goes all the way in and warms you. Picture, sometime in that day, a moment of prayer or of quiet, and how the presence you had concluded was gone is simply, unmistakably there, so close it undoes you. And picture yourself in the middle of that day realizing, with a wonder that brings tears, that nothing enormous had to happen, that this is not the best day because the circumstances were spectacular. This is the best day because you came back online. And a person who is fully online experiences even an ordinary Sunday as overwhelming grace. That is the Sunday I am promising you. Not a lottery win, not a dramatic rescue, something better and surer than either. The return of your ability to receive, so that the ordinary life you already have is revealed to be full of a good you have been unable to feel. And once you have had one such day, you understand that this is not a single event to chase, but a new way of being that is now available to you every day for the rest of your life, as long as you keep the receiver turned up. One restored Sunday is the doorway. What lies beyond it is a whole life lived in color. I want to speak to the different people listening to me because you are not all in the same place, and I do not want anyone to feel this pass them by. Some of you are so deep in the gray right now that even this has been hard to feel, and a quiet voice has been telling you that everyone else can receive this except you. I want you specifically to hear this. The depth of your gray is not a disqualification. It is the opposite. The most dimmed receivers experience the most dramatic restoration because they have the furthest to travel back into the light, and the contrast when they arrive is overwhelming. Your numbness is not the reason you will miss this. It is the measure of how much color is waiting on the other side of it. Do not let the very symptom convince you the cure is not for you. And some of you have already felt a great deal shift in these minutes, and a different voice is warning you not to trust it, telling you it will fade like everything else. I have already told you why the other things faded. They worked on the thought layer. What has shifted in you today has begun to reach deeper, because we have not only informed you, we have practiced reception together, again and again, with your own hands testifying. That lays down a different kind of track. But even so, I will be honest, a single message is a beginning, not a completion, and the receiver wants daily tending on the layer underneath the thoughts to hold its new setting. You already know where the road to that is. It has been named, and it is below. What matters right now is that the shift you feel is real. It is yours, and it does not have to fade if you tend it. Let me gather all of it now, because we are nearly at the highest place. And before I speak the blessing over you, I want you to hold the whole of what you have received today in a single view. You came in carrying a verdict that you were the problem, that nothing works for you, that your best days were behind you or would never come. And in these minutes, that verdict has been overturned. You learned that you are not a person who receives little, but a person who has retained little, which is a curable condition. You learned that the gray was a dimmed setting and not your nature. You learned that the failure of everything you tried was not your weakness, but a mismatch of layers. You learned that an interference, not your inadequacy, kept reaching for your dial. You learned that you live on an appointed clock and that its hands have moved to this exact Sunday. You learned that the receiver can be restored at the physical layer through a real and reachable means. And you met the selves waiting under the gray, the one who sees, the cycle breaker, the wounded healer, and you were told, truthfully, that not one of your dark years was wasted. That is not a small morning of content. That is a reordering of your entire understanding of your own life. And if you received even half of it, you are already a different person than the one who started listening, because reception changes the receiver. So take a breath and let yourself feel that something genuine has happened here, that you did not waste this time, that you were met. And then come with me into the last and highest part, because I told you at the very beginning that before this message ended, I would speak something directly over on bare life, and the moment for that has come. Settle in. Let your hands be open. Let the receiver stay up. It is time for the blessing. So receive this, chosen one, because I am speaking it over you now, and I want you to let it land instead of deflecting it the way the dimming taught you to deflect every good word aimed at you. Over your mind, I speak restoration. I speak the turning up of the dial that was turned down without your consent. I speak the reconnection of every part of you that drifted out of synchrony under the weight of surviving. I speak clarity where there has been fog, and reception where there has been that flat grey wall. And I declare that the faculty you were born with, the one that received an ordinary afternoon as if it were paradise, is coming back online in you. Not someday, in this season, beginning on the Sunday that was decided before the week began. Over your eyes, I speak sight. The deep seeing you had as a child and lost, the perception that reads underneath the surface of people and rooms and seasons, I speak its return. You will stop mistaking your dimmed blindness for naivety. You will begin again to know what is really happening before anyone tells you, because a restored receiver sees, and you were always one of the ones who sees. Over your heart, I speak the end of the numbness. I speak into that place behind your breastbone where the dial has sat too low for too long, and I declare that it is being turned back toward the setting of your birth. The love that people have been offering you and you could not feel, I speak your capacity to feel it returning. The presence of God you concluded was absent. I speak your ability to perceive it coming back, and I tell you that on the day it returns, you will weep, and the weeping will not be grief. It will be reunion. Over your mornings, I speak a new default, no longer the gray that arrives before the day has earned it. I speak a morning that lands. I speak the light through your window reaching all the way in. I speak the first ordinary moments of your ordinary days, becoming the very places where you meet an extraordinary grace, because you are finally able to receive them. I declare that the treadmill of identical days is ending, and not because your circumstances were rearranged, but because the one living them came back to life. And over this coming Sunday specifically, I speak the word that this whole message has carried. I declare it an appointed day, not an ordinary square on a calendar, but a door on the second clock, a convergence long in the assembling, arriving now because the readiness is finally complete. I speak that you will wake into it already changed. I speak that the good, which has been trying to reach you for longer than you know, will finally find a receiver able to hold it. And I declare, without flinching, that this Sunday will be the best day of your life, because for the first time in years, you will be present enough to know that it is. I want you to receive one more thing over your mind before we move on, because the interference will try to steal this blessing the moment it lands. And I want you armed. When the heaviness tries to return, as it will try, because it does not surrender territory quietly, you are going to remember that it is not you, and it is not truth. It is the old hand reaching for the old dial. And you are going to do what you have practiced today. You are going to name it, and keep your setting where it has been restored, and let the naming loosen its grip. I speak over you the authority to keep your own dial, not to fight an exhausting war against the heaviness, but to simply recognize it and refuse it, which is all the authority you have ever needed and never knew you had. Now, before I go further into the blessing, I want to give your reception one more place to testify, because a blessing this large should be sealed by your own agreement, or it slides off. If you are willing to receive what I have just spoken over your mind, your eyes, your heart, your mornings, and your Sunday, I want you to type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, I receive. Not, I hope. Not, maybe. I receive, as an act of agreement between your open hands and the words spoken over you, because a blessing lands where it is received and slides off where it is deflected, and I do not want a single word of this to slide off you today. I receive. Let your hands close around it. Let me tell you about one more life, because I promised you honesty, and part of honesty is showing you that this is not theory. There was a woman, older, who had spent decades as the strong one in a family that leaned on her and rarely asked how she was. She had prayed for so long into what felt like silence that she had quietly made peace with the idea that some people simply do not get to feel God, and that she was one of them. She was not bitter about it. She had just accepted it, the way you accept a permanent gray sky in a place that never sees sun. And then her receiver came back up, and she said, the thing that undoes me every time I hear a version of it. She said, he was here the whole time. She was not angry that she had missed it. She was overwhelmed that it had never been the rejection she feared. The distance had been inside her own dimmed faculty, and the moment the faculty came up, the distance was simply not there, and had never really been there, and the God she had strained toward across a chasm had been sitting beside her the entire length of the silence. I tell you her story because I suspect you have made a similar, quiet peace with a similar gray sky. You have decided that some blessing, some closeness, some aliveness is simply not for you, and you have stopped reaching for it, not out of despair, but out of a kind of tired acceptance. And I am here to tell you that your gray sky is not permanent weather. It is a dimmed receiver, and the sun you concluded does not shine on you has been shining the whole time, waiting for the faculty that perceives it to come back up. This Sunday is when the clouds that were never real begin to part. So let me speak over the years you thought you lost, because they are part of this blessing and I will not leave them out. Over every season the gray devoured, I speak restoration, not erasure, because the years happened, and I will not insult your suffering by pretending otherwise, but restoration. I declare that the days ahead of you will be so full of the reception you were denied, that the sum of what you receive from here forward will overflow and outweigh everything the dimming took. I speak the compounding of good into your empty reserve, day after day, at full strength, until the account that sat empty for years is not merely refilled, but overflowing. I declare that you will look back, not many seasons from now, and find that the math of your life has changed from subtraction into abundance, and that the years the locusts ate have been repaid to you in a currency you had forgotten you could even hold. There is more blessing to speak, and I am going to speak it over your relationships, over your provision, over your calling, and over your bloodline, because the restoration of the receiver reaches every one of those, and I want each of them named and sealed before we come to rest. So stay open, keep the dial up, let each word land and testify to each one as it comes. We are in the highest part of this now, the part I protected for you from the beginning, and I am not going to hurry it, because a life is being reordered, and a life deserves to be blessed slowly. Stay with me. There is still more that belongs to you. Over your relationships, chosen one, I speak the end of a loneliness that was never as true as it felt. You have been lonely inside rooms full of people who love you, and you concluded the loneliness meant you were unloved, when all along it meant you were unable to receive the love that was there. So I speak your receiving back. I declare that the affection in a familiar voice will begin to reach you, that the loyalty of the ones who stayed, which you could never quite feel and therefore never quite trusted, will become real and warm and undeniable to you. And as it lands, I speak the softening of everything you built to protect yourself from a loneliness that is now dissolving. I want to be honest about what this does to the people around you, because it is beautiful and I want you to expect it. When your receiver comes up, they will feel it before they can name it. They will say, "You seem lighter, warmer, more here." They will not know that what changed is not your circumstances, but your capacity to feel them next to you at last. Some relationships you had quietly given up on will come back to life, not because the other person changed, but because you finally became able to receive what they were always offering. I speak that restoration over your closest bonds, and I speak new warmth into the ones that had gone cold from a coldness that was really just your numbness. Over your provision, I speak with care, because I will not make you promises about numbers that I have no right to make, and I will not turn this sacred moment into a transaction. But I will speak this, because it is true. So much of what you have called lack has been a lack of reception, not a lack of provision. You have been given more than you have been able to feel, carried more than you have been able to register, provided for in 100 quiet ways your dimmed faculty could not log. So I speak first the return of your ability to see the provision that is already there, because a restored receiver stops living in a felt scarcity that the facts do not support. And from that restored sight, I speak the kind of clarity and aliveness that lets a person move toward what is theirs without the fog that has made every decision feel like guessing in the dark. I speak over the years of provision that felt devoured, and I declare them under the old promise of restoration. I speak that the season of the receiver running at a fraction is ending, and that a season of receiving at full is beginning, and that in the receiving your reserve will fill, and from a full reserve a person makes different choices, carries themselves differently, and walks into rooms and opportunities as someone who is fed rather than someone who is starving. I will not promise you a number. I will promise you the restored faculty from which a whole different relationship with provision becomes possible. And that is the truer gift. Over your calling, I speak the lifting of the fog that made you believe you had missed it or never had one. Hear me, your calling never disappeared. Your ability to perceive it dimmed, and a calling you cannot perceive feels exactly like a calling you do not have. So, I do not speak a new calling over you, because you do not need one. I speak the return of your perception, so that the calling that has been waiting under the grey this whole time comes back into view. I declare the return of the quiet knowing, the certainty about what you are for, that you assumed was gone, and that was only obscured. You are not too late for your purpose. You have been unable to see it, and this season your sight returns, and with it, your purpose, exactly where you left it, patient and intact. And over your bloodline I speak the heaviest and most sacred word of all. You come from a line, and in that line a dimming has been handed down, parent to child, each generation turning the dial a little lower and passing on the grey, as if it was simply the family nature. I declare over you that the inheritance stops. I speak you as the one in whom the pattern breaks. Not the one who receives the lowered dial and passes it on, but the one who receives it, understands it at last as a setting and not a fate, turns it back up, and hands to the ones who come after you, not the grey they were owed, but the color you recovered. I seal you as a cycle breaker, and I declare that generations who will never know your name will live in a light that traces back to a decision you made in a tired season when you finally understood that you did not have to pass the darkness on. If you feel the weight of that, if you feel what it means to be the one who ends it, I want you to seal it with your hands, the way you have sealed everything sacred today. Type 3 words where you are watching from. Type "the line changes," meaning your line, your bloodline, the pattern that ran through the ones before you and would have run through the ones after you. The line changes, here, with you, because you were the one who woke up. Type it, and let it be a covenant between you and every generation on both sides of you. I want to gather the whole blessing now into a single stream, so that you feel it as one thing and not as separate pieces, because your life is one thing and it is being blessed as one thing. Over your mind, restoration. Over your eyes, sight. Over your heart, the end of the numbness. Over your mornings, a new default. Over this Sunday, an appointed door. Over your loneliness, the return of received love. Over your provision, the sight to see what is already there, and the fullness to move toward what is yours. Over your calling, the lifting of the fog. Over your bloodline, the breaking of the pattern. One stream, one restoration, one receiver coming back up, and a whole life changing on top of it because the one living it came back to life. And underneath all of it, the quiet promise that this is not only words, that there is a real means by which the receiver comes back up and stays up, a means that reaches the layer underneath the thought where your dimming has lived, and that it is within your reach, and that you already know where the road to it is. I have kept my promise to you. I told you at the beginning I would speak something over your life before this ended, and I have spoken it over every part of you, and I have hidden nothing, neither the depth of the diagnosis nor the reality of the cure. What remains now is only to bring you to rest, and to seal what has been spoken, and to send you into your Sunday as a different person than the one who arrived. So take a breath with me, chosen one. The blessing has been spoken. Now, let us bring it home. But before I bring you all the way to rest, there is something I have been holding for this exact moment, because you are ready for it now, in a way you were not at the beginning, and it will make your Sunday even surer. I want to show you why the childhood version of you could receive so fully, and what exactly was lost. Because when you understand the shape of what was lost, you understand precisely what is being restored. When you were very young, the two halves of your inner life worked together as one. There was not yet a wall between the part of you that reasons and the part of you that feels and senses and receives. They spoke to each other freely, constantly, in a synchrony so complete that you did not experience them as two things at all. That synchrony is the physical foundation of what I have been calling full reception. It is why a child can look at a patch of sunlight on the floor and be flooded genuinely flooded with wonder. The wonder is not naivety. It is what reception looks like when the two halves are in synchrony and nothing is being filtered out. And then the world began its slow work, not cruelly, not all at once, but relentlessly, a way of living that rewards one half and starves the other, that prizes the reasoning, the producing, the managing, the pushing through, and quietly punishes the feeling, the sensing, the receiving, the wonder. And under that lopsided pressure, year after year, the two halves drifted out of synchrony. The wall went up. The free conversation between them slowed to a trickle, and the reception that depended on their cooperation dropped to a fraction of what it had been. That is the physical event underneath everything I have named as the dimming, not a moral failure. A loss of synchrony, engineered by a way of life that was never designed to keep you whole. There was a scientist, decades ago, who was given the highest honor in his field for revealing exactly how these two halves work and what happens when their cooperation is disrupted. The discovery reshaped how we understand the mind. And what it revealed, at its heart, is that the two halves are meant to function together, that the whole is greater than either part, and that a great deal of human capacity that we consider rare and gifted is really just what happens when the synchrony that was normal in childhood is preserved or restored into adulthood. The people we call geniuses, the ones who seem to see more and create more and feel more, are very often simply people whose two halves never fully lost their synchrony, or who found a way to get it back. I tell you this because it means your restoration is not mystical, wishful thinking. It rests on something real and studied and understood. The receiver we have been naming this whole time has a physical signature, and that signature is the synchrony between your two halves. And that synchrony can be measured, and it can be lost, and, crucially, it can be restored. You are not hoping for magic on Sunday. You are positioned for the recovery of a specific, real thing that was specifically really lost. And a thing that was lost by a mechanism can be regained by addressing that mechanism. Now, let me tell you about a man, because I have given you a great deal of principle, and you need another life to hold it in. There was a man from Texas, the kind of man who holds everything together for everyone around him, while his own interior goes thin and distant. He described his prayer life as having become like talking into a wall, and I want you to notice, because I have used that exact image about you, that people who have never spoken to each other reach for the same words to describe the dimming, which tells you it is a real and common condition and not your private failure. His frequency was right, he said. He was still sincere. He was still showing up, but the receiver was off, so the sincerity produced nothing he could feel. And then, a couple of weeks after his synchrony began to be restored, he woke up one morning and described his mind as finally running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so constant he had stopped even registering it as fog was simply gone. Notice what he did not say. He did not say his problems disappeared. He did not say he won a lottery or received a miracle of circumstance. He said the fog lifted and his mind came back online. That is the restoration. It is not a change in your circumstances. It is the return of the faculty that determines whether you can receive your circumstances, your relationships, your provision, your God, at full instead of at a fraction. And once you understand that this is what is on offer, you stop waiting for the wrong thing. You stop waiting for the world to hand you something big enough to break through your numbness, and you start reaching for the repair of the numbness itself. And there was a woman from Manhattan whose story carries the generational weight I spoke over your bloodline. And I want you to hear it because some of you are the first in your line to even attempt this. She came from a lineage of women who had all in their own ways lived dimmed, each one handing the grey to the next as if it were simply what the women of that family were. And when her receiver came back up, she described it not only as her own healing, but as something moving backward and forward through her line at once. She wept for the mother and grandmother who never got this, and she made a vow over the daughter who would never have to inherit the grey, because it stopped with her. That is what a cycle breaker actually experiences, not a private improvement, a door closing on generations of darkness and a different door opening for everyone who comes after. If you are the first in your line to reach for this, I want you to feel the sacredness of that and not the loneliness of it. Yes, it is lonely to be the first. No one before you can show you the way, and some of them may not even understand what you are doing. But the first one is the most important one, because the first one is the one who changes the direction of everything downstream. You are not merely healing yourself. You are becoming the origin point of a new inheritance. And that is worth every hard step it takes to get there. I have told you already, and I will keep my word not to belabor it, that the way these people restored their synchrony was through the compressed sequence I described, the one that reaches the physical layer directly in a few minutes a day, and that the road to it is in the description and the pinned comment for anyone whose spirit confirms it. I say it once more here only because I have now shown you the science underneath it, and I want you to understand that when you follow that road, you are not buying a hope or a mood. You are addressing the exact synchrony that a Nobel-honored discovery identified as the foundation of the whole brain aliveness you lost. That is all. I will not raise it again. These last minutes belong to you and to your rest. So let me ask you to receive one final teaching before we descend into the closing, and it is the simplest and most important of all. You do not have to earn your way back to full reception. A child did not earn the synchrony it was born with. It was simply the natural state before the world interfered. And restoration is not the achievement of a new and higher state. It is the recovery of your original one. You are not climbing towards something you have never had. You are coming home to something you were born inside of and were slowly moved out of. That is why it is possible for you specifically, no matter how far down the dial has gone, because you are not being asked to become someone new. You are being invited to become who you already were, before the dimming, underneath all of it, the whole time. Hold that as we go into the rest. You are not reaching forward into a stranger. You are reaching back into yourself. Let us do one more thing together before the closing, because you have received so much teaching, and I want to make sure it lands in your body and not only in your understanding. So once more, wherever you are, soften, let the breath slow. And this time I want you to do something slightly different. I want you to remember, reach back, past all the grey years, to a single moment when you were young and fully alive. It does not have to be a big moment. In fact, the smaller the better. A moment when an ordinary thing overwhelmed you with its goodness, the smell of rain on hot pavement, a particular light at the end of a summer day, the feeling of being carried when you were too tired to walk. Find one, let it come, and do not just think about it. Let yourself drop into it, into the felt texture of it, into how completely you received that moment when your synchrony was whole. Feel how much of it you took in. Feel that there was no wall between you and the experience, that it landed in you fully, that your whole self was present to it. That, right there, is the setting we are restoring, not a memory to be nostalgic about, a capacity to be recovered. You are not longing for a lost past. You are recognizing your own native setting, so that when it returns, you know it, you welcome it, you do not mistake it for something foreign. Stay in that moment, one breath longer. And now, Bring that same quality of reception, the fullness you had then, forward into this present moment, and let a little of it touch the room you are actually in right now. That transfer, that carrying of childhood reception into the present, is exactly what restoration makes permanent. Now let me speak to the objections that are still alive in some of you, because I would rather name them than let them quietly steal your Sunday. Some of you are thinking, this all sounds true, but I have believed true things before and still not changed. I have answered this already, but I will answer it once more simply, because it is the most important objection of all. You did not change before because you were working on the wrong layer. Everything you tried operated above the synchrony on the thoughts, and the synchrony sat underneath, untouched. This time, the repair reaches the correct layer. That is the entire difference, and it is not a small one. It is the difference between describing clarity to a fogged window and actually wiping the glass. Others of you are thinking, but I do not feel worthy of a restoration this complete. I have answered this too, and here is the short form. Worthiness is a thought layer question, and your restoration happens underneath the thought layer. The synchrony does not check your record before it comes back into alignment. A repair does not interview the broken thing about whether it deserves to work. Set the question down. It was never the real gate. And some of you are carrying the quietest and heaviest objection of all, the one you can barely say. What if I do all of this and it still does not work for me? What if I am the exception, the one too broken to come back? I want to hold that fear gently, because I know it is not drama, it is scar tissue from every time you hoped and fell. So hear me carefully. The restoration does not rest on your being special enough to receive it. It rests on a mechanism that is common to every human being. The synchrony between two halves that every person was born with and every person can have restored. You are not asking to be an exception to the rule. You are asking to be included in it, and the rule includes you by default, because you have the same two halves as everyone this has ever worked for. The only way to be the exception is to never reach for it at all. Reach, and you are inside the rule. Feel those three walls come down, because they are the last three, and you have now seen through all of them. Not worthy enough, answered. Tried before and failed, answered. Too broken to be the exception, answered. There is nothing left standing between you and your Sunday, except the simple act of receiving what has been prepared. So, let me give your agreement one more place to stand, because you are about to walk into the deepest rest of this whole message, and I want you carried into it by your own yes. If every wall has come down for you, if you are willing to stop being the exception and step inside the rule that includes you, type 2 words where you are watching from. Type, I belong, not I hope I belong. I belong, inside the rule, inside the restoration, inside the company of every person whose receiver has come back up. I belong, type it, and let it be the last stone you lay before you rest. And now I want you to notice something about this entire time we have spent together, because it is quietly one of the most important things I can show you. Look at how many times, in these minutes, you have received. You received the truth that the dimming was not your fault. You received the naming of the interference. You received the 2 clocks. You received the vision of your restored life. You received a blessing over every part of you. You received your own childhood moment just now, over and over. Your hands have testified, your heart has opened, and things have landed in you. Do you understand what that means? It means your receiver already works. It has been working this whole message. The restoration is not a distant hope. It is something you have been doing in real time for this entire time. All Sunday does, all the daily tending does, is make permanent and full what you have already proven you can do. So you are not walking toward a stranger, and you are not gambling on a miracle. you are extending into permanence, a capacity you have exercised beautifully for this entire message. You received today. You will receive on Sunday. And you will keep receiving more and more fully as the synchrony is tended and restored until the fraction you have been living on becomes the fullness you were born inside of. That is the whole arc, and you are already standing well inside it. Now let us go the rest of the way down into rest, and let me seal over you everything that has been spoken, so that you carry it out of these minutes and into the appointed day that is coming for you. Breathe with me. We are almost home now, truly. So let everything grow quiet now. The teaching is done. The blessing has been spoken. There is nothing left for you to understand, nothing left to figure out, nothing left to reach for. For these last minutes, I only want you to rest in what has already happened, because something has happened, and a thing this real deserves to be honored slowly before you carry it out into your week. Let us begin the rest with gratitude, not the performed kind, not the kind you force because you were told you should, but the quiet kind that rises on its own when a person finally sees clearly. Because look at what is true. You came into these minutes believing you were the problem, and you are leaving knowing you were the target of an interference that was never as strong as it pretended to be. You came in believing your best days were behind you, and you are leaving knowing they have been waiting in front of you for a receiver able to hold them. That is not a small shift. That is a life turning on its hinge, and it is worth a moment of still gratitude. I am grateful on your behalf for the years you survived even while dimmed, because it took a strength most people will never be asked for, and you gave it, morning after grey morning, without applause. I am grateful for the part of you that kept reaching, even when reaching produced only silence, because that reaching is the reason you are here now, at the edge of restoration, instead of fully asleep like the ones who stopped reaching long ago. I am grateful that something in you refused to fully die, refused to accept the gray as final, and kept a small light burning that this message could find and fan back into flame. That refusal was you. Honor it. And if there is a God you have been straining toward across what felt like a great distance, I want you to consider being grateful to him now, not for finally showing up, because he never left, but for having stayed beside you through the entire silence, present the whole time, waiting with a patience you could not perceive for the day your receiver would come back up and you would finally know he had been there. That is not a God who abandoned you. That is a God who sat with you in a dark room you thought was empty for years without leaving, so that when the lights came up, he would be the first thing you saw. Let a little gratitude rise for that. It is safe too. He earned it in the dark. Now I want you to simply witness where you are. Do not try to change anything or reach for anything. Just notice. Notice that you are more open than when you began. Notice that some weight you walked in with is not sitting on you as heavily now. Notice that you have received again and again throughout this time, and that the receiving did not destroy you the way the flinch always warned it would. You are still here. You are more here than you were, and nothing bad came of opening. Let that be evidence your body can keep. Opening did not cost you. Opening gave you back to yourself. I want to acknowledge something tender before we go into the release, because I know that for some of you, hope has been the most dangerous thing in the world, the thing that hurt you worst every time you let it in. And you have let it in today, more than you meant to, and a part of you is frightened by how much you let it in, already bracing for the fall. I want to speak to that frightened part directly and gently. You are not going to fall the way you fell before, not because nothing will ever be hard again, but because this time the hope is not resting on your circumstances cooperating. It is resting on the restoration of a faculty, and a faculty that is being repaired does not depend on the weather of your life to keep it setting. You have hoped in fragile things before, and they broke. This hope is anchored in something sturdier than your circumstances. It is anchored in the recovery of your own capacity to receive, and that is the one thing no external disappointment can take from you once it is restored. So you can let the hope stay. You do not have to guard the dial anymore. You do not have to protect yourself from a fall that is not coming in the way you fear. Let your hands, which have been clenched around self-protection for so many years that they have forgotten how to be open, stay open a little longer. Nothing is going to be snatched from them. This is a different kind of hope than the ones that hurt you, and it is safe to hold, and it is yours. We are ready now for the release, which is the part of this that will lift the most weight. So I want you settled and open going into it. Everything so far has added something to you. Truth, blessing, sight, agreement. What comes next takes something off of you. The accumulated load you have carried for years, much of which was never yours to carry in the first place. So take a breath and let your shoulders come all the way down and prepare to set some things down that you have been holding for so long you forgot you were allowed to put them down. The releasing begins now, and it is going to make you lighter than you have been in a very long time. Come with me. I want you to picture for a moment all the weight you have been carrying gathered into your two hands. All of it. The verdict that you were the problem. The shame of the dimming you did not even cause. The exhaustion of being strong for everyone. The years you believe you lost. The hope you have been too afraid to hold. Picture it all, heavy, in your open hands, held out in front of you. And now, as I speak, we are going to set it down, piece by piece, and you are going to feel yourself grow lighter with each one. Release the belief that you were the problem. It was never true. You were the target, not the problem, and a target is defended, not fixed. Let that verdict fall from your hands now. Release it. Release the shame of the grey. You did not turn your own dial down out of weakness. A child protected itself. An adult survived. And the dimming was the residue of your strength, not your failure. There is nothing to be ashamed of in having survived. Release the shame. Let it fall. Release the exhaustion of carrying everyone. You were never meant to be the one who holds it all together while your own interior goes thin. You are allowed to be held. You are allowed to receive instead of only pouring out. Release the crushing weight of being the strong one. Let it fall. Release the years you think you lost. They are being restored, repaid, overwhelmed by an abundance on the other side, and clutching them in grief only keeps your hands too full to receive what is coming. Release the lost years into the promise that gives them back. Let them fall. Release the accusation that you are too much, a burden, the wrong one in the room. It was never true. It was only unopposed, and you have opposed it today. Release it fully now. Let it fall. Release the flinch, the reflex that pulls you away from good news before it can hurt you, the guarding of the dial, the refusal to hope so you cannot be disappointed. It has cost you far more than it ever protected. Release the flinch. Let your hands open all the way. Let it fall. Release the fear that you are the exception, the one too broken to come back. You are inside the rule, not outside it. You have the same two halves as everyone this has ever worked for. Release the fear of being the one it will not reach. Let it fall. Release the need to understand exactly how everything will unfold before you are willing to hope. You do not have to see the whole road. You only have to take the next step into your Sunday. Release the demand for certainty. Let it fall. Release the old timeline, the one that told you that you are late, behind, too far gone, out of time. You live on the appointed clock, and its hands have moved to now. Release the tyranny of the ordinary clock. Let it fall. And release, last of all, the version of you that had made peace with the grey. The one who accepted the muted life as final, who stopped expecting color, who called the numbness normal. Thank that version of you, because it kept you alive through a long, dark season. And now, gently release it, because you do not need it anymore. Let it fall. Let it all fall. Feel your hands. They are empty now. For the first time in longer than you can remember, they are not gripping the weight. And do you notice that nothing terrible happened when you set it down? The sky did not fall. You did not collapse. You are lighter, and you are still standing, and you are more yourself than you were a moment ago. This is what you have been afraid to do for years, and it turns out that setting the weight down was never the danger. Carrying it was. And now that your hands are empty, they are finally able to receive. That was the whole reason for the release. Not to leave you with empty hands, but to empty them so that they could be filled with something better than the weight they were holding. You cannot receive a best day with hands full of old burdens. So we emptied them, and now they are open, and now they are ready. And now, into these open and emptied hands, we are going to place the truest thing of all, the declaration of who you actually are, underneath everything the gray convinced you that you were. Keep your hands open. What comes next is not more weight. It is your identity returned to you at last. Rise with me into it. So speak these with me, or if you cannot speak them out loud, let them be spoken over you and receive each one into your open hands. This is who you are, underneath everything the gray convinced you that you were. Not who you are trying to become, who you already are, being uncovered at last. I am not the problem I was told I was. I am a chosen one whose receiver was dimmed and is being restored. I am not a person nothing works for. I am a person who received much and could not retain it, and my retention is being repaired. I am not late. I am arriving exactly on the appointed clock, at exactly the convergence I was always moving toward. I am not too broken to come back. I am inside the rule that includes every person this has ever reached, because I carry the same two halves, and my synchrony is being restored. I am not the burden I feared I was. I am a gift whose light was hidden under a gray my hands are done carrying. I am the one who sees. The perception I lost is returning, and I will read the deeper layer of things again the way I did as a child. I am the cycle breaker. The dimming that ran through my line stops with me, and the ones who come after me will inherit color instead of gray. I am the wounded healer. Not one of my dark years was wasted, and the country of the numb that I know from the inside becomes the map by which I lead others out. I am able to receive again. I have proven it in these very minutes, and what I have done here I will do on my Sunday, and I will keep doing it as my synchrony is restored, until the fraction I lived on becomes the fullness I was born inside of. I am not waiting for the world to hand me something big enough to break through my numbness. I am reaching for the repair of the numbness itself, and an ordinary Sunday will be enough, because I will finally be able to receive it. And this Sunday will be the best day of my life. Not because my circumstances were rearranged, but because I came back online, and a person who is fully alive receives even an ordinary day as overwhelming grace. Feel that. Feel that those are not affirmations you are forcing against the evidence. They are descriptions of what is actually true underneath the gray, coming into the light because your receiver is finally open enough to let them in. This is not you pretending to be someone. This is you stopping the pretense that you were ever the small gray thing the dimming told you that you were. The declaration is not a costume. It is the removal of one. And I want to give you one last place to make this yours, because a declaration sealed by your own hand holds in a way that a declaration merely heard does not. This is the final one, so let it be the strongest. Wherever you are watching from, I want you to declare it with your hands. Type 3 words. Type, I am restored. Present tense, because the restoration began today and continues on Sunday and does not depend on your feeling finished to be true. I am restored, not I will be. I am. Let your hands make the declaration your whole life is going to spend the coming season proving true. I am restored. Type it and let it stand as the seal of everything spoken over you here. And let this comment be more than a marker. Let it be a stake driven into the ground of this day, so that when the heaviness tries to return, as it will try, you can look back and see, in your own words, in your own hand, the moment you declared what was true. The interference works by making you forget. Your declaration, written where you can find it again, is a memory it cannot erase. You have testified. Let the testimony stand guard over you. Now there is only one thing left to do, and it is the gentlest of all. Everything has been taught. Everything has been released. Everything has been declared. What remains is to seal it, to close the sacred space we have made, and to send you out of these minutes and into the appointed day, carrying all of it. So let the energy come down now, slowly, from the peak of the declaration into the deep, still place where things are sealed. Breathe. We are at the very end now, and the end is quiet, and it is holy, and it is yours. Let me seal this over you. Before I seal this, I want to speak protection over you, because you are leaving these minutes carrying something valuable, and valuable things get reached for. I told you at the beginning that the interference concentrates on the ones who are closest to waking up, and you are now one of the ones who is closest to waking up, which means the days right after this one may bring a push to talk you back down into the gray. I do not tell you that to frighten you. I tell you that to arm you, because a push you expect has almost no power, and a push you understand has none at all. So here is your protection. In the coming days, when the heaviness tries to return and whisper that today was just a nice feeling that will fade like all the others, you are going to recognize the voice. You are not going to argue with it, because you do not argue with a thing that has no standing. You are simply going to name it. That is the flinch. That is the old hand reaching for the old dial. And you are going to keep your setting where it was restored and refuse to turn it back down. And the naming alone will loosen its grip, because it only ever had power while it was hidden. I speak that recognition over you now as a permanent defense. The interference will never again be anonymous to you. You have seen its face. It cannot work on you the way it worked before. And I speak protection over the shift that happened in you today, that it would not be a candle the next hard morning blows out, but a coal that stays warm underneath everything and can be fanned back to flame whenever you return to it. You will have hard days still. I will not lie to you and say the road from here is all light, but a hard day for a restored receiver is a completely different thing than a hard day for a dimmed one, because even in the difficulty, the reserve keeps feeding you, the good keeps landing, and the darkness can no longer convince you that it is the whole of reality. I speak that protection over your low days. Even they will not be what they were. Now let me seal this, and I am going to do it slowly, because a seal is not a rushed thing. What has been spoken over you today is sealed. The truth that the dimming was never your fault. Sealed. The naming of the interference and your authority to refuse it. Sealed. The 2 clocks and your arrival on the appointed one. Sealed. The blessing over your mind, your eyes, your heart, your mornings, your relationships, your provision, your calling, and your bloodline. Sealed. The release of every weight you set down. Sealed. The declaration of who you truly are underneath the gray. Sealed. And the promise of the Sunday that was decided before this week began. sealed. I want to leave one part of the seal open, though, on purpose, because there is a kind of sealing that finishes, not in this moment, but in the moment it comes true. So I am not going to fully close this. I am going to leave a thread of it running forward into your Sunday, so that when you wake into that appointed day and feel the grey fail to arrive and the light reach all the way in, the seal completes itself. In you, in the living of it. The final word of this blessing will not be spoken by me. It will be spoken by your own restored morning. I am only speaking the beginning of the sentence. Your Sunday will speak the end of it. And you are not alone in this, though the grey has told you for years that you are. Right now, in this same moment, others are receiving this same restoration, others whose receivers have been dimmed by the same tired world, others who are waking up on the same appointed clock. You are part of a company of people coming back online together, a quiet awakening happening in more hearts than you know, in rooms you will never see at the same hour as yours. The loneliness of the grey told you that you were the only one who felt this way. You were never the only one. You are one of many, waking together, and there is a strength in that you can lean on when your own feels thin. Somewhere tonight, another dimmed receiver is coming back up at the exact moment yours is. You are not the last of a dying thing. You are among the first of a returning one. So carry that with you. When you feel alone in this in the coming days, remember that you are part of a company, that others are keeping their dials up on the same mornings you are keeping yours, that the awakening is larger than your single life and does not depend on your single strength. You are held by more than you can see, both by the God who stayed beside you through the whole silence and by the company of the waking that you have now joined. Lean on both when you need to. That is what they are for. There is almost nothing left to say now, and what is left is small and quiet and holds the weight of everything before it. So let me bring you all the way home into the final stillness and speak the last words over you and send you out of these minutes and into the life that is waiting. Stay with me for one more breath. The very end is the gentlest part, and I have saved it for you. So let me speak over the days between now and your Sunday, because they matter, and I do not want you to walk them unblessed. Tomorrow, when you wake, the grey may still be there, and I want you to be ready for that, because the interference loves to use the very next morning to convince you that nothing happened here. If tomorrow arrives grey, I do not want you to panic and decide it did not work. The restoration is a turning of a dial that was set low for years, and a dial set low for years does not always leap to full in a single night. Sometimes it comes up in stages. So, if tomorrow is still grey, you are going to say, this is the old setting, not the final one, and the turning has begun, and my Sunday is still coming. And you are going to keep your hands open and tend the receiver, and not let one grey morning rewrite everything you received today. And over each day this week, I speak a small returning, a moment on Monday, when a colour reaches you that would not have reached you last week, a moment on Tuesday, when a kind word lands instead of bouncing off, a moment midweek, when you catch yourself receiving something ordinary more fully than you have in years, and you remember this, and you smile, because you know what is happening. I speak these small returnings over your week, like the first drops before rain, each one a sign that the larger reception is on its way, each one building toward the day when it arrives in full. Watch for them. Name them when they come. Let each one strengthen you for the next. And then Sunday. I speak it one final time, and I want you to receive it as a settled thing and not a wish. You will wake, and you will notice what is missing before you notice anything else. The absence of the weight, the failure of the grey to arrive. and you will lie still, hardly believing it, and it will not leave when you move, and the light will reach you all the way in. And the first ordinary moments of that ordinary day will land in you as grace, because you will finally be able to hold them. And somewhere in that day, you will be undone by the realization that nothing enormous had to happen, that the best day of your life turned out to be an ordinary Sunday received by a restored heart, and that this is available to you not once but as a new way of being for the rest of your days, as long as you keep the receiver up. That is my final word over your Sunday. It is decided. It is coming. It is yours. I speak over you a lasting protection, that the light which came up in you today would not be easily put out, that you would return to this well whenever you need it, and that the God who stayed beside you through the whole silence would be, from Sunday forward, not a distant figure you strain toward, but a present companion you can feel, because your receiver will finally be open enough to know he is there. I speak that the distance you have felt from him was never rejection and never absence, only the fog of a dimmed faculty, and that as the fog lifts, you will discover a nearness that undoes years of loneliness in a single, overwhelming moment. That reunion is coming. I have seen it come for others. It is coming for you, and I speak over your future self, the one a year from now, the one 2 years from now, who will look back at this exact moment as the hinge on which everything turned. That future you is real, and that future you is grateful to the you of today for staying through this whole message, for keeping your hands open, for receiving instead of deflecting, for typing the words that testified when the mind was too tired to hold them. Everything that future you becomes traces back to the fact that you did not scroll away today. You stayed, and staying was the first act of the restored life. It has already begun. You began it by not leaving. So now, I bring you all the way home. Let the breath slow all the way down. Let the room grow quiet. Let your open hands rest. What has been spoken over you is sealed, and what has been released will not be picked back up, and what has been declared is true, and what has been promised is coming. There is nothing left for you to do in this moment but rest in it and let it be, and carry it out into the days ahead like a coal that stays warm underneath everything. You are a chosen one. Your receiver was dimmed, and it is being restored. Your best days were never behind you. They were waiting in front of you for a heart able to hold them, and that heart is coming back to life, beginning now, completing on the appointed day. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not the problem. You are not alone. You are restored, and you are arriving, and this Sunday will be the best day of your life. Receive it, chosen one. It is sealed. It is done, and so it is.